What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis, inspiring all of us just to feel better, look better, love better, be better humans every damn day of our lives. And our Wednesday night show this week, presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. That's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, an incredible place to watch Michigan State basketball Friday night, Michigan State football Saturday if you don't want to sit in the cold. The Lions any day. And also tonight, our Wednesday night show, presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Play the games along with us. We will pick the games with Harry Gagnon a little bit later in this show. Jason, how you doing, man?
Don't coach my team.
What's going on, buddy? Good to see you this evening.
Don't coach my team.
Welcome to the Tom Izzo Apology Hour here on Couch in the Rube.
That's what it's about to be.
Absolutely.
Don't coach my team.
I'm sorry I tried coaching your team, Coach. You legend, you Hall of Famer, you.
I think people
You're
are
an adorable guy.
I think for the most part, people are happy to eat a
How
little
can
crow.
you not be?
Yeah.
Right?
And
I love it.
Coach,
I mean, it's not like I don't enjoy ripping on these guys. Hazelton, Jay Johnson, Tucker, or Izzo, but we have questions to ask. And now, since that performance last night, you get praise. That's how it works, right?
And coaches can be wrong. He bet on Mady Sissoko. He bet on this crew, and largely to this point, obviously, it's worked. And it might not have, and that would have been on him. But when it works, you get the credit.
And we usually say, well, I want to see what happens. Can Sissoko do it next game? No.
He's done it twice.
He's done it twice against good competition. I think I've seen enough. He looked like Shaq at LSU in '92. It was wild.
Yeah, he's done it against two consensus All-Americans, including last year's Player of the Year and another guy who's a two-time consensus All-American. Very different players.
Yeah.
And somebody texted me, one coach texted me last night, coach of a different program, and said he reminded him of a young Horace Grant. And like pre-Horace Grant developing a 17-foot jump shot.
I saw you put that in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a weird comparison, but all right.
Yeah, just for the old folks. There's a lot, I got some 60-year-olds.
I am old and, Horace Grant, all right.
Some people remember a young Horace Grant. They're like, oh, my God, what a comparison.
Horace and Harvey Grant, his twin brother.
That's great. Perfect.
Right.
Another coach today on the drive back from Indy.
Don't coach my team.
Chatting with him, and he just said, when you're a coach and you discover you have a big man, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Has to be.
That's
why he was almost crying last night, because he's like, God damn, it's working.
And it's that kind of big man. It's the rim runner. It's all the things you need, right? It's the rebounding, the defense. It is unique as it is. Not unique is the wrong word. As hard as it is to find skilled offensive guys with some of Jackson Kohler's talents. The guys you really need to win games are the guys like Sissoko. Because what's really interesting about this team right now is they're not the most talented team in the world. They're not. I mean, how many NBA players are on Michigan State's team for sure right now? Maybe not a one.
Sissoko.
For a lottery pick. A.J. Hoggard, I think, has the best chance to develop into an NBA player, just based on his size and some of the things he can do. And because the thing in the NBA is you want to be able to do something really, really well. You don't want to be solid at everything. You don't want to be too small. He's got good size for a point guard, and he does certain things very, very well. And I'm telling you right now, and I should have tweeted this out yesterday, Vegas is a little slow on the game props with A.J. Hoggard over under his assists. Hoggard is an assist machine. Even when he turns the ball over, he's going to have 7, 8, 9 assists. And right now the over-unders on him are about 4.5, especially at home where they give him extra assists. Jump on that if you get a player prop. I didn't want to put it out there yesterday because my only fear was not at Breslin, different scores table. I didn't want to give it to people and then it go awry. But then I looked at the end of the day and he had like 8.5.
I mean,
that's real low for him. Yeah, I mean that's
I'm
what
sure it'll be 6.5 against Villanova.
I would take it.
Yeah.
I would take it because he's usually over that. And
but you mentioned that that there's not an NBA guy on here, but I think you could still win a national championship without a guy, right? Or
right.
No.
Well, here's the thing about college. First of all, in basketball, there's only 5 guys on the floor at once, and it is all about matchups and what you do well and what you can counter. And the thing Sissoko gives them is a guy who can counter really good big men. So Xavier Tillman in that 2019-20 season that got canceled at the end, what he was so great at, like the reason to argue for Michigan State could have won a national title that year, and I know there were 5 or 6 teams that think that way, maybe more, and that would be an interesting story sometimes because there were some great teams that year that really had, like Dayton had one of the greatest team they'll ever have, and that got canceled. And there's a lot of teams that had an argument. But what you had with Michigan State was you had a situation where it was pretty clear after the 4 straight performances Tillman put together against 4 different style big men that if you relied on a big man, you were not going to beat Michigan State. That I could say with pretty good confidence. Sissoko's not there yet. But what I mean is he is a counter. He is a guy who causes you problems no matter who you are as a big man. He puts up a decent fight. And they're not going to face many big men of the caliber they just did the last 2 games. And so Sissoko's now, when he's not facing great ones, is going to have to consistently get up and be really good and be the better center instead of just holding his own. But for Michigan State, they know they at least now, as long as he's healthy and for as long as he can stay out of foul trouble in a game, and he's done it moderately well. I mean, he's found foul trouble a little bit, and they adjusted it. They adjusted his minutes against Kentucky. They held him out longer in the second half, knowing they need him down the stretch, and it worked because they had him in the entire overtimes too because of it. It was actually they got through it with Kohler and Carson Cooper. I mean, they barely, but they got through it. And Kohler played a little bit better. Cooper looked like a fish out of water, and he's got a ways to go in that. But again, you're facing the consensus National Player of the Year, and this is your first big time college basketball game if you're Carson Cooper. And you were supposed to be redshirting. And so that, we're going to get into, in the Twitter questions, some of the talk about, Izzo and the lineup construction, whether they should have done more and whether that still could hurt them. But the other thing this team has is just great collective guard play in certain ways. Defensively, this is the best team I've seen in a little while. And they've got, it looks like a really hungry team that plays with an edge. A lot of guys who've been through a lot, and I dropped that, my favorite line, sweat equity, in the column, or the quick takes. Might have even dropped it in the column, too. I bet you I dropped it twice.
Everywhere.
Yeah, pretty sure I did. But because you look at these guys' journeys. I mean, look at who Joey Hauser is. By the way, not feeling bad about doubling down on him on the leading scorer right now. Not saying that'll hold, but it certainly was convenient for me to have him drop 23 after I said that. But you look at a guy like him who is kind of gone through what he's gone through and rightfully has been doubted. I mean, he has not performed to the level they thought he would be. You look at a guy like Tyson Walker, who spends a couple years sort of toiling in the mid-major ball out east. A.J. Hoggard, we question whether he was a real Big Ten point guard during that COVID year as a freshman. Jaden Akins, he was kind of the second fiddle to Max Christie. He was the second fiddle in high school for a while and went through all the stuff. He was a backup, and then he was with Monty Bates, and that didn't work out. Like, these guys are guys with a chip on their shoulders, an edge to them. And they're the thing about, like, A.J. Hoggard may not be a lottery pick right now, but almost both guard matchups I watch him in, I'm like, the other team really still can't stop him. Like, that guy is a problem for everybody they play. And Tyson Walker is a problem for everybody to play. And I think Akins will get to that point, but he's a really good rebounding complementary guard who's not trying to do too much. And for the first time we saw we saw Malik Hall and Hauser play well together in tandem, which I think was important because I was kind of waiting to see that. I know they wanted to start with that lineup, but it was like, is that really going to be a thing?
Dick Vitale wouldn't shut up about Malik Hall. It's like, holy shit.
And
Dickie V.
And then they were great. The other thing is they were great in the small ways when it really mattered. They were great in the inbound plays, right? They're great with the free throw line. All the things it takes when your margins aren't huge, when you don't have Zion Williamson on your team, when maybe you don't have Denzel Valentine on your team, when you don't have that one dude who can necessarily carry you all the time. But I think they got a number of guys who are problems. I think they're a hard team to scout. If you listen to John Calipari, he's talking about their biggest fear was, or their biggest matchup concern was Joey Hauser. And I bet you if we polled our audience, most people wouldn't have said that, right? They were like, don't let that guy get open. And he still hurt them. Because on this team, who are you really? I think it's a challenging team to because they're all playing well enough. I think it's a challenging team to scout. Like, who would you, Jason, if you're the opposing coach and you're thinking, okay, this is the guy we don't want us to hurt us, what are you trying to take away from Michigan State?
Oh, it's got to be Hogard.
Yeah, you want to limit him,
right? I mean, that's where you stop it. I mean, can you let Sissoko just get his and beat Michigan State? I think you can.
I don't know.
But let me ask you, I don't know if this was in your hot takes or in your column, but you said you think that they can count on Sissoko for 25 impact minutes, but you said the problem is most games are 40 minutes, but who's going to get that extra time if he does get in foul trouble? And if he stays out of foul trouble, does he play more?
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks like a guy who can go when he needs to go most of the time.
Because refs are going to play. I don't know how they're going to play Sissoko from here on out,
well,
right? I mean,
it'll help that he's not fouling out all the time, that he's playing well. That his reputation is going the other way. It's not like this Aloysius Anaganye thing where all of a sudden this guy's always going to pick up fouls. I think it's going to help that he's playing well. His reputation will change a little bit. The thing that's also going to help is they're not going to need this every night from him. They just faced two guys who, Hunter Dickinson, there are a few others, but where they're really going to need him all the time. In more than half their games, even in the Big Ten, you're going to be able to survive some minutes, especially as Cooper and Kohler develop. I think there were some promising moments from Kohler who was better than the last game. That's all you can ask from him is like incremental improvement. He sealed off one time real well on Oscar. He had another dive on the floor. He looked like a guy who was like, okay, I know I'm in the shit now, and I got to figure out how to survive it. Whereas Cooper got in, and he's like, okay, here it goes. And Cooper looked kind of like Kohler did the first time. So as long as those guys, as they face it more and more, look more and more comfortable and can give you a little more and more, but there's no doubt if they get in severe foul trouble with Sissoko, that second foul, if he picks it up early or something like that, you got a real problem. And that's a lot of teams. I mean, look what happened to Kentucky when their All-American fouled out. So I don't know. I just thought it's obviously an incredibly promising start. It's a massive win because you come off that loss, and it feels like for a while now this has been a team that has games where they're really close but just not quite good enough, and then they were good enough.
I mean, they were beating Gonzaga that whole game, so that still stings a little bit, but after last night, can you really complain about it? Right?
It was the opposite. They weren't beating Kentucky the whole time, right? It was like they had moments where they were ahead, but they weren't in control of that game, but they made the plays at the end. They were great when they had to be in the closing minutes of regulation and the closing minutes of the first overtime, and then Walker helps get Oscar to foul out. And
who's in charge of the out of bounds play? Because they deserve credit. We give these guys, these assistant coaches, shit, but I mean, we got to give credit where credit was due because that was pretty impressive.
That was a great play, and I think that was usually assistant coaches handle the out of bounds plays for Michigan State, and so Izzo was pretty clear on giving credit to them. And I don't know which one had which play, but I think their new director of recruiting had the one between was it Walker and Hogard where they threw it back and forth out of bounds, and then that's a great play. And but you still have to execute it. And look how well it was done. Like those guys look like the freaking Kansas City Chiefs out there. I mean, that was a real.
It did look like they've practiced that once or 100 times.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what, and that's when you have those for, and you have to practice it when you need them. It was impressive. It's a massive game. I mean, and a start that we thought, well, let's see, what are they going to be? 2-6, 3-5 if they're lucky. They got a chance to play a Villanova team that I think they should be better than. I mean, Villanova struggled a little bit. They got a key injury. A couple of them, although one of the guys can be back. And they're at home. Like, you got a real chance to be 3-1 with a 1-point loss to Gonzaga, a win over Kentucky, a win over Villanova, and you're feeling really, really good about yourself. We're going to spend a lot more time on this game in your Groovy Donut Twitter questions, which we're going to do a little later in the show. We're going to talk to Harry next and pick the games, and then we're going to talk to Zach Osterman from the Indy Star little bit about Indy football and Big Ten basketball, just to give people a sense of Indiana coming in and how that program's fallen down and what that might look like. And then we'll get to your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. We'll dig back in the hoops quite a bit. Before we go, really quickly, Front 43 and Cask & Company has a cool thing going on next Tuesday, November 22nd, beginning at 5 p.m., Breweries vs. Frostbite. They've done this before. It's with 10 local breweries, over 20 beers on tap, and come take part. You bring your unused gloves, winter hats, coats, socks, and blankets. Great cause. Breweries vs. Frostbite next Tuesday from 5 p.m. on at Cask & Company and Front 43. They'd love to have you there. It's a cool event. Great beers and breweries on tap. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back with Harry Gagnon, Pick the Games. Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, Front 43 and Cask & Company, and our friends at Firekeepers Casino and iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wondered just how comfortable you can be? Find out with Muskox high-quality flannels. Muskox is a Detroit-based company that creates durable comfort that'll last a lifetime. Muskox flannels are thoughtfully designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. This will be the softest flannel you'll ever buy, guaranteed. For every $100 purchase, Muskox will donate $10 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Get comfortable this fall and winter with Muskox flannels. Learn more or order yours today at gomuskox.com. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
All right, it is time now to pick the games presented by Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app, play the games we are playing today. And, of course, to do that, we have the great Harry Gagnon with us from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, bestbetcorner.com, and extrapoints.com. Harry, you beautiful man, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's everything going?
Oh, great. Just getting ready for the World Cup. Am I right?
That's right, baby.
Yay.
That's right. Can't wait.
Yeah, no, I mean, the problem is I'm going to lose a lot of money on the World Cup, Harry. I've already decided that because at this point, like, I'm fired up for it, and I'm more excited than I am knowledgeable about these teams. And I'm reading a lot, but
how is that possible? You watch nothing but soccer.
Because we haven't seen these teams together. We know what countries are usually better, but you really don't have a sense of it exactly. You have an idea who's the favorites and all this stuff. And
so Vegas does know something.
Well, Vegas just knows we're all suckers in this thing, and we're waiting for it.
I got a stat for you, though. Graham.
Okay.
I know there's only one game on Sunday, and that's the opening in the host country, Qatar, going up against Ecuador. It's the only game playing, so the whole spotlight's on Qatar on this one. The last 5 times the World Cup host has played in the first round in their first game, they've won all 5.
I think Qatar is shit, though. And I'm going to be honest, I love Ecuador at plus 140.
Okay.
I'm probably going to be on Ecuador. And I
didn't say I liked it either. I just threw the stat out there.
Yeah, no, there are a number of lines. I mean, I'm looking at England minus 275 against Iran. I'm going to parlay that in everything I have and probably lose. There are a lot of games that are Argentina minus 600, Saudi Arabia. Just throw that in some stuff. Why not? This is trouble.
What about Golden Boot? Can Harry Kane do it two World Cups in a row?
Yeah, I just can't pick a Tottenham man. Just can't do it. Even
Can't
if I
do
like
it,
the
huh?
Brits, I can't bring myself to. How you doing
How
over
about
there,
a Harry?
Jason?
How about just a Harry?
What's that?
How about just a Harry? Harry Kane.
I think
Harry Maguire.
we've lost Jason over here.
Free Ubers.
Jesus, what are you guys talking about?
No, there's some great group
There's actually
play.
good sports going on.
Yeah, but Croatia, plus 100 against Morocco. I like it. I'm all there. Anyway,
If you want me to quit, just say so. I'll do it.
Listen, I'm also going to throw out there. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I'll tell you what. Iran could play some defense.
okay.
How about that one, Jay?
Belgium just minus 215 against Canada. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all.
Oh, that's my team to win the whole thing. I'm giving out Belgium on Caesars right now at 16-1.
Oh, Brazil just minus 230. There's so many things that are easy parlays that I'm going to wind up losing. Brazil minus 235 against Serbia. Oh boy. This is going to be trouble. This is going to be
Keep your
trouble.
pants on, couch.
Okay, yeah, sorry. All right, let's dig into these American football games. Let's start with the NFL stuff, and then we'll do the college. Eagles minus 6.5 for the Colts. The Fighting Jeff Saturdays. This line is interesting. It's in Indianapolis. I know the Eagles just played a crummy game. Maybe they're hitting a little 2-game swoon. We're seeing that with Buffalo a little bit. To me, strangely, as much as I think the Eagles are the better team, I think this is too many points. I'm on the Colts. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, there's some weird things that happens when the Indy plays at home, but I just think Philly has a bounce-back game. I know it's on the road, but I trust Philly, and it's 6.5. I don't really love it, but give me Philly. What do you got, Harry?
I don't know. I'm kind of, guys, rooting for the Colts here and Jeff Saturday in the situation. This past weekend, we saw Jonathan Taylor look like Jonathan Taylor again against Las Vegas. Ripped them up for a ton of yards, and not for nothing, but Bill Cowher went out and blasted Saturday like saying he didn't deserve the job. But how about Cowher? How much broadcasting work had you done before coaching? Probably none, and you just got hired. So it's kind of the same thing. And I think the Colts did a great job. I think the Eagles a little disarray after that, and some injuries on Monday night. So I'm going to take the Colts with the points.
You know what coaches don't like? They don't like when somebody discovers that their profession isn't brain surgery. And that's what – Jeff Saturday's been a consultant for that organization.
Kind of
He's
like
been
a columnist,
in football
right?
forever.
Don't call him a beat writer.
Look, he's a hard ass sometimes. You guys have seen the highlights with him and Peyton Manning on the sidelines going back and forth with each other, but he knows the game.
Yeah.
It's not like he's,
And it's
he
about
doesn't know the game.
It's about managing people. I'm always amazed by these head coaches who can't manage people because to me it seems like that's 80% of it. Not 80%, but you could hire really good people if you know how to manage people. And that's why Dan Campbell has a shot, right? Is because he seems like a guy who's okay, man, we're gonna move on from this one. Lions +3 at the Giants, who Vegas still doesn't give a whole lot of credit. The Giants are what 7-2 now. Lions are just +3. Basically a pick 'em, but the Giants are the home team, which is really interesting. Vegas does not give the Giants any credit here. Neither do I, though. So I don't really. I understand where this is. I don't love this line either way, but frankly, the Giants have had a season that's worthy of covering a field goal at home against the Lions, and I'll take it. I'm on the Giants. Jason?
It comes down to Jared Goff, and Jared Goff is ass, and Jared Goff is on the road against the Giants. So give me the Giants -3. What do you got, Harry?
Yeah, I'm on the Giants, Joe. I know it looks like a low number. The Giants, all these games are close. What are they supposed to make the Giants' favorite? They don't score a ton. Who also doesn't see the ball a lot? Kenny Galladay. Can we get a sighting out of him against his former team?
Yeah, he's going to put 40.
That would be nice. He had 2 targets last week for no catches. So can we get a little something out of that money we're giving him? But anyways, Detroit guys, I think you guys know this too. They have not won 3 games in a row since almost exactly 5 years ago to the day. November 19, 2017 is the last time Detroit won 3 games in a row. I don't think it's happening. I think you just give the ball to Saquon Barkley, the best player on the field, and he gets it done for the Giants.
I don't know if I've ever said a line that says I don't know football more than saying I think Kenny Galladay is going to drop 40. What is this, basketball? 40 what? 40
anything. I don't
40,
think he's going to.
Yeah, 40 yards. That's nothing. All right.
He would kill for 40 yards an hour, right?
That's
He'd
true.
kill for that.
He misses Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
All right, interesting line. Chiefs minus 6.5 at the Chargers. This is the first game, and it took Vegas 10 weeks this year. I wonder if it'll take time next year. They struggle with the Chargers and the Rams in realizing that they don't play at home. It's got to be – you can't give the 3.5. This is Eastern Michigan basketball, guys. You can't do it. There's no fan base. So, finally, it looks like, just looking at the number here, this is more of a little bit more of a neutral site number. I often get burned with the Chiefs, but the Chargers have been woefully not as impressive as I thought this year. Give me the Chiefs minus 6.5 and what will be a pro-Chiefs crowd. Jason, where are you?
I mean, the Chargers D has kept games close, but it's against the Falcons and 49ers, Harry. So the Chiefs 6.5, I like it unless you can talk me out of it. What do you got?
I really can't on this one. I mean, I look. I always want to go. I'm a sucker here in this game because I always want to find a negative in Kansas City, and I always want to find positives in the Chargers. But yet, this Charger team just again looked kind of lifeless after that opening drive against San Francisco last week. Not a lot of offense. It's tough when you don't have your top two receivers in the game, and Herbert's doing all he can, but still not playing that great. And Kansas City still won by double digits last week, won by 10, and methodically going about their business. But whatever reason, I'm still going with the Chargers here. I'm going to take the 6.5, hoping they show up.
Well, yeah, no, I don't love the line. It's I don't know. The Chiefs don't quite have the. I mean,
but the Chiefs are fun to bet on because of the offense. You're never really out of it.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, Cowboys -1 at the Vikings. Vikings still getting no respect. This one makes me a little bit nervous just because the Vikings keep finding a way to win. I think the Cowboys are the better football team, but it's in Minnesota. I'm stunned the Cowboys are favored. I think that's ultimate disrespect for Minnesota. And right now the evidence is the Vikings find a way to win, and I'm not sure the Cowboys are always that team. I'm going to hold my nose and take the fighting Kirk Cousins here. Jason, where are you?
I don't think the Cowboys should be favored by anything in this game. Give me the Vikings. Although Kirk Cousins, your boy makes me nervous, Harry, but I do owe him some gratitude for last weekend and winning me a lot of money. But with that said, give me the Vikings. What do you got?
How great was that last week?
Awesome.
That was, I mean, aside from betting, and as we are just sports fans in general as well, that was just a great game.
No.
Awesome.
I had money on it.
That was crazy.
You have to have money on it.
Well, I had Vikings too, and look, guys, you guys will know I'm all over the Vikings all season. But in this spot, and I know the line looks fishy here, no respect for the Vikings, but I hope I'm wrong. But I am taking Dallas here because this is 2 straight emotional games on the road that Minnesota pulled out. Cousins going back to Washington, and they pulled that game out down 10 in the fourth, and then down 17 in Buffalo, and come back and win that game too. I think it's a lot that's taken out of them. I think Dallas getting Zeke back, and I believe he's pretty healthy. I think Dallas pulls this game out.
Harry, I do like the fact that we're almost all the way there on the Vikings covering the season win total that we both have. So that's been nice.
Yeah, I mean, how great.
That's
and their schedule, the remaining schedule's not that difficult.
Oh yeah, they're gonna cover it easily, which is good because I'm gonna have to pay up on about 17 other bets. But that's fine. That's the way it usually works with my season over unders. Okay, let's move to the college games. The game of most national interest everywhere. Indiana plus 10.5 at MSU at noon at Spartan Stadium, and this line is moved a little. I think it was at 11.5 when it opened. I don't. Again, this is like last week, and Michigan State didn't cover last week, although it took a late touchdown for that not to happen. I don't think this Michigan State team has shown itself to be double digits better than anybody in the Big Ten, other than if they played Northwestern maybe on the schedule. And physically, I think Indiana and Michigan State up front are probably pretty similar. And so the question really, and this is not a game where you want to bet Indiana, because I do think Indiana has sort of hit the skids, and they're in a bad headspace as a program. And so I wouldn't bet this game either way, but 10.5 is just too much on MSU here. If you like MSU, I would throw this in a teaser somewhere, bring it down a little bit. But give me the Hoosiers slightly, and I'd hold my nose if I was taking it one way or the other. Jason, where are you?
I agree. I think it's a lot of points, but I got to say, Graham, I mean, 2 weeks, Indiana has been just demolished by Ohio State and Penn State. Do they have anything
Good teams,
left?
though. Yeah.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
do they have anything left coming
Right.
into Spartan Stadium? It's senior day for Michigan State. The 10 and a hook, it is kind of heavy, but I think Michigan State covers this spread. What do you got, Harry?
Jay, you nailed it. I agree with you. The last two games I was going to mention against Penn State and Ohio State, they've lost by a combined 101-28. I got burned with them. I took them against Penn State, and they didn't show up in the second half. Michigan State's won 3 of the last 4. Hoosiers have lost 7 in a row. Got nothing to play for. I'm on the Spartans too, Jay.
Yeah, here's the thing is
I mean, you're right, Graham. I mean, it's a lot of points, but I don't think Indiana has anything left to play for.
Well, yeah, and the one thing about the senior day and the crowd, there will be emotion behind that. I'm wondering about the crowd. I'm wondering if it'll be a decent enough crowd that it's not a deflating atmosphere. And I do think it might. People are into this team. I think they appreciate the way this team has bounced back this season. It is firearms hunting season now, which opened this week, and so that will cut into the crowd. It is going to be colder than freaking shit. Like, hold on one sec. Let me see this. Like, people, I mean, you can't give these tickets away. It's going to be so miserable. Let's see. Saturday is high of 26 degrees. It's supposed to feel colder than that. Possibility of snow. Like, people just aren't used to this. We were at 73 like a week ago. They're not there yet. And I sometimes think
did we just move here? I mean, we've dealt with this for
right, but
what I
mean is usually we get a fall where we get a little more of it. Like, I don't know. I think I don't know if senior day helps them. Anyway, all right. So I've got the Hoosiers. You two are on the Spartans. Illinois plus 18 at Michigan. The game before the game for Michigan. This is a game a couple weeks ago I thought could be interesting. Illinois has fallen flat twice in a row. That's a lot of points, Illinois, for a team that's been pretty good at times. But I think Michigan is focused. I think they win by 3 touchdowns. Give me Michigan. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, I'm with you. 18 seems heavy, but it's Illinois. It's at the big house, and like you said, with the weather, give me Michigan. What do you got here?
Yeah, it was that Michigan State win against Illinois that's thrown the Illini into like a tailspin with these 2 straight losses. Wolverines, I think, take care of business before heading to Ohio to take on the Buckeyes. I'm taking the Wolverines.
All right, so we're all on Michigan there. Iowa plus 3 at Minnesota, and Iowa's become my team. I think they're the one team in the West with one great unit, and that's their defense. And it played out last week, and I won a fair bit of money on that. I'm on the Hawkeyes heavy again. I'm putting it on the money line as well, putting in teasers. If Iowa loses big, I'm going to have to sell the house. So I'm clearly on Iowa here, even though the game is at Minnesota, and I think this is a legitimate test, and it should be a good game. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, this game is kind of weird, but I'm with you. I like Iowa's D. Their offense is a complete bore-fest piece of ass, but give me Iowa. What do you got here?
Yeah, I'm on Iowa too, guys. I tell you what, like if I had this game that when they beat Purdue a couple weeks ago. By the way, they've held Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin last 3 games, just 26 total points. I love taking Iowa unders. That game against Purdue was so great. Like, run for 3 yards, run for 2 yards, no hurry-up offense, and then a complete pass for no yards, and it was just punting, and the clock kept running. I love watching Iowa and no scoring at all. It's fun. It's actually fun. I'm going to take Iowa, but I also do like the under in this game as well.
All right, TCU minus 2.5 at Baylor. TCU finally a favorite, but barely. I know they're on the road here. Baylor's a decent team, 6-4. TCU getting all sorts of grief. I mean, Stephen A. Smith giving them shit about their schedule today on First Take. Like, he clearly doesn't watch any college football because their schedule is actually as good as most teams' schedule. He's like reading off teams as if they're crap. They beat Oklahoma State. Kansas.
The man can't watch everything. He's on ESPN 22 hours a day.
Then don't have a hot take on it if you don't know it.
Well, that's what they pay him for.
I know, but maybe don't.
You know what? He fakes a lot of his stuff. He
Yeah.
really does.
No way.
He fakes a lot of his knowledge.
It was pretty clear. It was pretty clear this morning. TCU got left out years ago. TCU is a team in that first playoff. Still bothers me to this day. I would love to see TCU get in the playoff. And I think, look, there's something to them. And the way they played defensively last week against Texas, give me TCU inside of a field goal on the road here. Jason, where are you?
I mean, this is a weird line because last week against Kansas State, I mean, what happened there with Baylor? I mean, give me TCU minus the 2 and a hook. What do you got, Harry?
Yeah, look, TCU, big win versus Texas. Their defense was great, Graham. But they did get a lot of injuries in that game, too. I think this line is fishy because, look, Baylor got steamrolled at home by Kansas State last week. So it looks like an easy win here for TCU. I'm going the other way. I think Baylor rises to the occasion here. They show up, and they pull the upset in Waco and throw TCU out of the mix.
Yeah, this is one of those lines that makes you go, All right, same line, a Big Ten matchup, USC versus UCLA out west. USC minus 2.5 at UCLA. The Pac-12 needing the team that's jilting it to win out to get a team in the playoff. UCLA ruined it their chances last week with a loss against Arizona. USC has not played – like USC actually does have a really weak schedule to this point. Not their fault, just their schedule's backloaded in the Pac-12. They don't have a great defense. I think their offense – I've watched a little UCLA. I think USC is a slightly better team. It's at the Rose Bowl, pretty even setting, whatever. Give me USC, but I wouldn't bet it high. I wouldn't bet it big. Jason, where are you?
I mean, it's not really a big deal that it's at UCLA, and last week UCLA looked terrible. So give me USC. What do you got, Harry?
Yeah, I'm on USC too. 8 games for the Trojans this year. They scored 40 points or more. Only loss was by 1 to Utah. I think it's payback from last year when UCLA hung 62 on them. And UCLA is not the greatest on defense. 5 of the last 6 games, they've allowed 32 points or more. I just think USC is the stronger team all around. I think they take care of business.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. This is one of those weeks where things could really hold, or this could be the week that creates chaos. And it feels like it has the potential for that. And I usually root for chaos, but I think chaos screws TCU, and I'm rooting for TCU. Well, Harry, I hope you're you're going to have to be up early out there to watch all the World Cup games. How are you going to pull that off?
I know. I'm working. I'm checking the schedule. I'm doing my homework tonight a little bit. I got some more. I'll text you if I come up with something. If you come up with something good, let me know. But I'll do the same to you if I find something that I like. Please
do. We'd love to share it with our audience, and we'll talk a little World Cup. And when we talk next week, the U.S. will have played a game, so we'll have a good feel, and maybe we'll dig into some World Cup stuff.
I thought Harry was going to Qatar. What happened to that?
They're not going to let him in there.
I was supposed to. Yeah, believe me. Long story. I wanted to go. I still want to go. But I guess I'm not going. I guess instead I'm going to Salt Lake City for Thanksgiving instead.
What's in Salt Lake City?
So it's pretty much the same thing.
Wife's family.
Oh yeah, just that. Okay.
Got to do that once in a while.
Yeah. There's no way around.
Pack your magic underwear.
I don't have any boots. I think I might need some boots. I think it's going to be snow. I live in Scottsdale. I got flip-flops. That's all I got.
Legends wear flip-flops in the snow, Harry. Just remember that. It'll be good for the video on Twitter.
Right. Nice. Take care, guys.
All right, Harry, you're a beautiful man. Thanks a lot. That's Harry Gagnon from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, Best Bet Corner, and extrapoints.com. And that, of course, is us picking the games presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. If you want to play the World Cup games, download the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app today, or just go to Firekeepers. I think there are a lot of cool sportsbook experiences. Firekeepers is great, and you can go there, watch the World Cup games middle of the day on a freaking Monday and Tuesday. I mean, that's how perfect is the timing of the World Cup. I hope you have some PTO available so you can take advantage of that, and we'll give out picks as I get a feel for things. I'm going to have some parlays that I'll tweet out. I'm doing as much research as I can. There's some things I like. I'm sure I'm going to play it. I'm just a little nervous I'm going to lose money, and I don't want to lose you a ton of money. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, covers Indiana football and basketball, talk about the Hoosiers and Michigan State a little bit this weekend and what's going on with that program and what might happen. Give you a better sense whether it's safe to bet the Spartans. We'll be right back. Couch in the Rue, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, Firekeepers Casino, and iCasino and Sportsbook app, and, of course, our friends at Cask & Company and Front 43.
Hopcat exists at the intersection of great beer and delicious food, complemented by music, art, community, and comfort. Home to a best-in-class beer experience served by craft beer experts. Guests can expect a casual, inviting local gathering place with some of the best damn burgers and fries you'll find in Michigan. Hopcat is proud to be an official sponsor of Peyton Thorne. Show your Spartan pride by ordering the iconic Peyton Thorne burger, created by the man himself. There is no better place to watch any Michigan State game. other than the 50-yard line at Spartan Stadium. Stop by any of our locations: East Lansing, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Holland. To plan your next trip to Hopcat, visit hopcat.com. If you're looking for a relaxed vibe, great food, and an outstanding beer selection, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing is your place. Enjoy their famed chicken and waffle fries, fish and chips, or any of their delicious burgers or salads. Midtown Brewing Company also offers 40-plus beers on tap, including ciders and seasonal offerings and daily happy hour specials. The spacious and cozy vibe makes Midtown Brewing Company a perfect place for a beer with a friend, a work lunch, or to watch the games on its big screen TVs. If you'd rather eat at home, Midtown Brewing Company offers a terrific carryout menu and free delivery on orders of $20 or more. Visit MidtownBrewingCompany.net or stop by 402 South Washington in downtown Lansing for the Midtown Brewing Company experience. Ever wondered just how comfortable you can be? Find out with Muskox high-quality flannels. Muskox is a Detroit-based company that creates durable comfort that'll last a lifetime. Muskox flannels are thoughtfully designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. This will be the softest flannel you'll ever buy, guaranteed. For every $100 purchase, Muskox will donate $10 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Get comfortable this fall and winter with Muskox flannels. Learn more or order yours today at gomuskox.com.
Find our live stream, podcast archives, as well as show, affiliate, and sponsorship information at our website, spotlightmediastudios.com.
Couch in the Roo, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring people to be better, look better, feel better every damn day of their lives. Some fantastic deals going on at Skymint right now, including one of the things you can always do there is they have Bring a Bud. They'd love to meet your friends. Each visitor that you bring that is a new customer, you are eligible to purchase up to 3 Skymint Reserve 8s for $25 each. That's half off the good stuff. Bring a Bud to Skymint. Go to skymint.com for location information and daily specials. And the other thing is Skymint delivers most places. So see if you're in a community like Lansing, they deliver. They've got 3 locations in Lansing, also deliver. And new location in Grand Rapids, locations in Ann Arbor, Muskegon, Detroit, you name it. Skymint is all over the state. And, of course, our Wednesday night show is also brought to you, friends, by Front 43 and Cask and Company. We are going to do a little bit of a zag here. We're going to have Zach Osterman on in a bit. We do this live. He's got young kids, putting them to bed. We totally get it. So if you listen to the pod later and you're a little confused and you like zipped ahead thinking you're going to find the Twitter questions, you're going to want to zip back.
Kids sound great,
don't they?
Oh, man. Everyone makes it sound so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. So we're going to dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions for a little bit. Then we'll dip out. We'll talk to Zach. We'll come back, do some more Twitter questions. So let's dig in.
Eric Schultz up first. A year ago, MSU was in the top 15 for much of the season, playing similarly to the squad. Yeah, no, to the squad. Tough, connected basketball without any stars. They couldn't keep that intensity going and ended up disappointing. Why will this team be different? Does it rhyme with Smet Bequity?
Yeah, no, I do think that's it. I mean, it really is. I don't think there's a ton more talent. I'll say that, Gabe Brown was a high-volume, high-minutes guy with a ceiling. Like, he had sweat equity but was limited in ability, and I think the guys they have now have sweat equity and a little more of a fit. Like, I mean, he was a shooter, like, who didn't hit enough shots, and that's a problem, right? That was a problem partly with Max Christie, too. So partly it was the makeup of the team where you had guys whose best 2 traits were shooting, whereas that obviously Hauser to this point hit shots when they played indoors. Tyson Walker is a guy who can get in the lane, does a little more with the ball in his hands. A.J. Hoggard gets downhill. We'll see what Jaden Akins develops into this season he gets more and more into it. But it's a different makeup that I think that fits a little bit better as a group. And the other thing is they're frankly, so far, they're better at the center position. We'll see if that holds. And Marcus Bingham had some games where he was a real impact player. But Mady Sissoko is doing things that Tom Izzo just dreamed Marcus Bingham would do consistently, and especially on the glass.
Dominic next. What happened to that Todd Schultz guy at the LSJ? I don't remember liking him very much, but I also was severely wasted during a majority of his tenure. Major upgrade with you in Rexroad. And what's your prediction of the results of the investigation if you had to guess? Bazooka to your fucking head.
All right, so Todd Schultz was the columnist of the LSJ before me, because Rexroad came in as a beat writer. They didn't fill that job until I came in, and this was like 6 years apart. So I think he just left. He got sick of it for a couple reasons. He had a family life, sick of the Wednesday nights in West Lafayette in January and things like that.
Kids again. Yeah,
and he was a tough columnist. He was a very critical columnist. At the time, there was a lot to criticize, but he was hard, and I think some of the pushback he got and I think weighed on him. But I don't know everything exactly, but he's still in the area. He's got a good job in the area, and I think he just was looking for a little more of a life that suited what his family needed at the time. Bazooka to the head on the Michigan State football tunnel investigation.
Bazooka time.
I think you'll have Kerry Crump probably. I don't want to guess on charges, so I'm not going to say. I
do
think
that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think on charges.
No, I'm not going to do that. I don't think he comes back, but I think Crump's probably not coming back this season if he comes back at all to the program. But the other guys, I think the length of their suspensions, we're at 2 games now. I don't know how much longer they should be. And I don't know exactly at this point. They should have very specific understandings of everybody's role in it. And they should also know what prompted it, what led to it from the Michigan perspective. Now, if it was simply trash talking, or was it something physical, and that'll matter a little bit. I think we will learn something this week. That would be my guess, because at this point, they've had some time. I would be surprised if we don't learn something this week. That said, I have not talked to anybody who has said that to me.
Over under 2.5 felonies.
Yeah,
Andrew Gauthier.
Better be under.
MSU Hoops has already surpassed my expectations this season. With that in mind, can this team get even better? If so, how?
Yeah, no, I think they can. I mean, because a couple things. One is Jaden Akins is a guy they were counting on to be a headliner for them. And so far, while he was really good on the glass, he's been good defensively, he's not that. And maybe he won't be this year. Maybe this was a setback, or maybe he's not ready. But I do think he'll be more offensively, which will change them a little bit. I also think A.J. Hogard has the ability to grow. Like, I think Tyson Walker is a really good player, but he's about what he's going to be. I think there's more to Hogard. I think there's a level of taking over games. And, he went through a stretch last year where he didn't turn the ball over, and he really took care of Michigan State, and then he was really taking over games. I think there's more to Hogard that can be there. So, and I think there are some young guys who can develop a little bit. I think Pierre Brooks, we saw him shoot the ball well, and this, didn't get a great opportunity to play. I think he'll be a bigger part of things. There's some guys that still can grow into some roles that give them a chance to be a little bit better than they are now. And so, yeah, I absolutely think there is room for improvement.
Ryan Schultz up next. If Mady keeps looking like this, is it the greatest single offseason improvement by an MSU player ever? How about a college player ever? And from Benjen, I didn't think sports could stun me anymore. Mady Sissoko playing even up against 2 Player of the Year candidates did just that. Is this the most shocking, in a good way, MSU basketball development you've ever seen? And same question from Eric Larson and Eastlick.
It is, like, I'm trying to think of somebody who took the steps from a 1.1 point a game
Tillman.
guy.
I mean, not, 1.1.
Yeah, no, but Tillman, there were signs. He was a serviceable, good player. I mean,
there was signs, but the leap that he made in one season was
and really, you didn't know it until he got his opportunity when Ward went out. Where you're going, oh my God, they can't survive without him on the floor.
But is it different because Izzo had this feeling and people were kind of like doubting Sissoko?
Well,
so does that make it more?
Sissoko hadn't shown any evidence of this.
Like, I understand.
I'm trying. Sissoko. This is like if Idon Ibach had become a force or something. It's. It's.
I love the Skyman, but one downside to it is last night I was like, man, is the Skyman or is he playing
really well?
Really, really well.
It's like if Herzog had worked out. I'm telling you, it is. I'm trying to think of a guy who has developed into something. Eric Snow was a guy who became a much better player late in his career, but he was
free throw shooting, right?
Yeah, he was playing a lot as a freshman. Like he was I know the program wasn't as good back then, but I don't think a guy has gone from pretty much a project to look like a bust after 2 seasons to a guy who is held up pretty damn well against arguably the best 2 centers in the country. Like it's not just he's holding up. Like he's physically just so different. Like the game has slowed down from him. He made a couple passes out of the post. Like he's not panicking with the ball. It took Matt Costello till his senior year to stop treating the ball like a hot potato. And Sissoko is very much at ease there. He's great in the pick and roll with Hogard and Walker and those alley-oop dunks, and he really is comfortable there. Very good on the glass. Like there are things that he is. I don't know that I've ever seen it, and I've seen guys develop late in their careers at different places, but I don't know that I've seen something this drastic that comes to mind. When I saw this question, I started thinking about it, and it is a great development story, and it's a reminder with guys who haven't played a lot of basketball, that's likely where it's going to happen, right? So, like Sissoko is a West African guy who hasn't played a ton, gets hurt in high school, doesn't even really play his senior year, comes into a COVID year where they aren't doing like you can see why it happens with him when it doesn't happen with some other guys, just in terms of he's got some of the physical tools, but just hadn't played a lot of basketball. And now he's locked in. They're investing in him. They've been working with him all year. He understood that this was his year. That often helps too. Like think about Michigan State's quarterback situation with guys like Damian Terry and Tyler O'Connor. Once Connor Cook won that job, I'm not saying that those guys stopped trying to get better, but they kind of knew for a couple years that they were just backups. And there didn't seem to be a whole lot of urgency or improvement there. And sometimes when if you're Mady Sissoko and they're Julius Marble and Marcus Bingham are in front of you, there's a different level of urgency than, holy shit, this is me. I'm going to be the one out there. And if I don't do this, I'm going to look like a fool. This team needs me. But it's an incredible story.
Spartan Johnny next. How on God's green earth does college basketball not have every coach asking for 6 fouls? And how on earth do teams stay in the bonus when you start OT? College basketball does realize it's in the entertainment business, right?
This, of course, is our Cosmic Fries question of the day, presented by our friends at Hopcat, the best damn beer bar, world-famous Cosmic Fries, formerly known as Crack Fries, mouth-watering, award-winning burgers, and an incredible selection of local craft beers, curated and tailored to whatever community you're in. So it feels like you're at a local brew pub when you're at a Hopcat, be it at East Lansing, be it at Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and, of course, they have the Peyton Thorne burger, and which, as they continue to win, tastes better and better. I thought it tasted really well when they weren't playing as well. I thought it tasted really good when they weren't playing as well. Tons of TVs to watch the game. Great place to grab a pint with friends. Great place to watch Spartan basketball. And, if you've ever been to one in East Lansing, it's a good vibe, and it's great food and great beer selection. Go to hopcat.com to find the nearest Hopcat location, and appreciate Spartan Johnny with that. Now, so the 6 fouls thing, it's so obvious. Like, there are 2 or 3 fouls a game on every player that fouls out that are bullshit, or at least questionable. And that's a problem, because you can't have fouls that are questionable or bullshit if you're only going to have 5 fouls till somebody fouls out, and guys have to sit for minutes because they're in foul trouble or they're done. Like, it just changes games. It hurt Kentucky last night. It's hurt Michigan State this season. This isn't Sissoko being a hack. This isn't,
But starting the bonus in overtime, I think it's on equal footing at 6 fouls. I think they both need to be changed. The bonus in OT right away,
yeah.
You're doing a free throw contest.
Yeah, it's kind of shit.
It's already a ref show, so
And you certainly should have extra fouls when you get to OT if you haven't fouled out yet, right? That to me seems like an easy.
Wipe it clean. Go back to 0 fouls.
It's No, I don't know.
I'm just saying. I mean, who wants to watch that overtime? It's supposed to be exciting, and all of a sudden you got free throw contest.
Yeah,
It's not fun.
Certainly, yeah. Change the bonus, maybe 2 for an overtime, or at least make the second foul in overtime.
But Spartan Johnny's right, though. Why aren't we talking about this more? Is it talked about at all in off-season meetings or Big Ten media days, anything?
Because the boobs in the national media who drive this, the Jay Billises and those guys, they really, really don't want this. They don't want touching. They don't want handy. They think somewhere Naismith acted
Billis.
like. I mean, it's bullet, but he has people's ear. He does.
They should have foreign fouls.
He's a motherfucking problem, man. Like I'm telling you, like on this thing, and so like, I get that people will tell you, and of course he will say it too, and all these guys that they tried it in the Big East and it was a lot worse. Well, try it again.
Yeah,
try it again, or. And I'm good with this. You gotta let people either challenge a foul, because if there's a really bad call and you're able to challenge it, you could rescue a player from foul trouble. Or better yet, at least have one guy, and fouls out, and you can decide, no, we're going to give him an extra foul. So you have one. In other words, that one guy gets in foul trouble, you kind of know isn't as much foul trouble as you want, because you have the option later in the game of giving him an extra foul, which allows you to easier play a guy with 2 quick fouls, keep him on the court in the first half, things like that. There are ways to get around this. It's logical. I don't want to hear about the NBA has 48 minutes and one more foul, but no. Different game. Different quality of refs, much more physical in college basketball, much more compact, much more intense at the rim in terms of not just letting people score. They don't cut high school basketball down to 4 fouls just because it's 32 minutes. This is the right thing to do. I will die on this freaking hill, and thank you, Spartan Johnny, for your Cosmic Fries question of the week.
I don't think you're alone, though, other than Billis. Right, I haven't really heard anyone that is.
DeCourcy isn't, but there are a few of them, and
I haven't heard DeCourcy's take on it, but I don't know how you would be opposed to 6 fouls. It just means better basketball. It doesn't mean it's going to be
their argument
is
it means worse basketball, more physical, too physical. I think adding one foul doesn't do that. I don't.
It's not going to be like the bad boys of the 90s or anything. But.
Totally. I totally disagree with it.
You want to try?
Let's keep going for a little bit on the Groovy Doden Twitter questions.
Jeff Peterson next. 3 games into the MSU basketball season. Any adjustments to your win projections? And from Brett and Gavin Haas. After what you've seen over the last 2 games, does your perspective change on how far MSU can go? Are they the best team in the Big Ten? Deep tournament run? Will you be wearing a man bra?
I'm feeling good about the man bra bet right now.
Set that on fire.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good.
Thank God. Win-win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I do think it adjusts you a little. I picked 24 wins, 24-11 or something like that through the NCAA tournament, and I mean, I thought I liked this team. I thought they had a chance to be really interesting. I did not see Sissoko being this, though. Nobody did. I can't even imagine. I mean, Izzo obviously and his staff saw him play at Tennessee, and you started to get reports that was a really good showing. But I don't even think that they thought this was going to happen from Sissoko. And that just changes things. And because, again, as that coach told me earlier today, when you find out you have a big man, it's the greatest thing in the world. And he's a rim running. He hasn't even been great yet as a rim protector, but just a athletic, rebounding, defensive presence who's coordinated enough to get things done offensively and not be you're not down a man offensively because he's going to juggle the ball when he gets it or can't handle the lob or can't pass out of it, when he gets the ball and he doesn't have something. And he's even hit some turnaround jumpers. So, yeah, it changes your win projections, and especially in a Big Ten where you have 7 teams, maybe 8 teams if you think Penn State might be up there, that could arguably be in contention because we really don't know. So all of a sudden, a team like MSU, after this start, becomes much more interesting. You start looking at them like, okay, there's Indiana, there's Illinois, is MSU, are those the 3? Like you start to think MSU has a really good chance to be near the top of a league where I don't think there's a whole lot of separation.
Peasy next. What's more likely, MSU misses Julius Marble this year for depth, or not having another experienced center has allowed Matty Sissoko to break out? And from DMB, how would Julius Marble fit into this lineup? Asking for 2 overmatched 18-year-old white boys. And from Jack Nitz, I get we're thin at center, but could we really not find anyone better than Carson Cooper to give minutes to?
So it's a really good question. The idea of Julius Marble is not having him, as that helps Sissoko. And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, Sissoko right now is better than Marble ever was. Now, Marble's had a couple good games. We've seen him offensively. But Sissoko defensively is, and on the glass, Marble is not a great rebounder. And so, I think they'd obviously be better off if Marble was in the program and was able to stay in that and be a backup center. He's better than the backup centers they have right now, especially hanging in there. Ideal backup center in a lot of ways, Julius Marble. Would have affected Mady Sissoko? I really don't know. I also don't think, again, this is the arc of a season. We've seen one game from Cooper against really good competition. It did not go well. We've seen 2 games now from Kohler. The second one went a little bit better. Small increment. I think he gets it. And they're not going to face a lot of guys like that. Those guys have to be ready by the end of February when they face that sort of player in March to hold up when they're needed. But they've got time to develop into that. And, they don't have to be pretty. Like Cooper Cooper has to be able to use 5 fouls correctly without giving up an and one or without getting pushed around. He has to learn where, that'll be his role. He'll have very little value on the court other than his fouls in certain matchups. And so he's got to use them. That used to be Sissoko. Cooper's got to find himself to be just a little bit better version of what Sissoko was. And Sissoko had a couple decent games last year at times. But yeah, no, it's a fair question about the whether they could have found somebody else. But are you going to find a transfer that wants to come in and be a backup? Maybe at Michigan State. Maybe that's a good place to do it. I think it's hard to criticize Izzo for the center position, given the development of Sissoko and given the time that those 2 guys have still to develop. Let's do a couple more.
All right, Jeff Haddis up next. Why did so many people doubt Izzo's decision not to go into the portal this offseason? He has a proven track record of developing bigs, i.e. Goran Sutan, Matt Costello, Marquise Gray, Gavin Schilling, Xavier Tillman, and so on. And from Paulie's show, when will people stop bitching about Izzo not getting a transfer big? He didn't. It's over. Move on. And he proved he can win with the talent he has.
So, I think a lot of people right now are feeling a lot better about Izzo for a couple reasons. One, it's the recruiting class he just signed in 2023. So you think back to the conversations we were having about Izzo a year ago. Had lost his edge recruiting, didn't have high-end talent. Then you go into the offseason, are they not going to sign a center? But when you have the combination of a guy who's found his edge in recruiting again and is having a nice run here, and then the development of Mady Sissoko in a roster that people were nervous about, I think there's a lot more faith in Izzo. And I think, there are people who I think a lot of people admit they overreacted to it. But there was also evidence to make people a little bit nervous on the center Sissoko front.
And why is that an issue from Paulie's show, though? I understand. I think people are backing off that before the season, not getting a transfer big. It's just a question. I don't think it's like questioning Izzo's legacy or any as the game passed him by. It's just an honest question, and it's working out. So, again, don't doubt the Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I think that was one that I used to push back a little more on the recruiting one, just because there had been so much evidence over time. Every time people thought that they were really struggling to recruit, that he would come through with a great class. And so that had happened often enough that I'm willing to give Izzo the benefit of the doubt on recruiting. And, again, that seemed to pay off. The transfer portal, though, look, this is a brand-new world where you can transfer immediately. Izzo doesn't like it. He was doing his FU tour saying this is my way. And there was I can understand why there were some nerves about that. And it looks like it's worked out to a certain degree. And certainly he deserves benefit of the doubt. And I think that's something to remember next time. I mean, he may fall on his face at some point, but when he thinks he's got a roster he likes and when he wants to, I also understand why you don't want Mady Sissoko to transfer. Think about that. Think if he had gone and gotten a guy and Mady Sissoko transferred, and Mady Sissoko's at Iowa State or somewhere with a great start, and they've got some transfer big. You know what I mean? It could have gone the other way, too. If you get a wing and Pierre Brooks is like, I don't want to do this. You're bringing in somebody to try and replace me. And Brooks, winds up going somewhere and having a really nice career. Like, those are the things I think Izzo is cognizant of. He feels like he made a commitment to these guys, and so far it's because when you bring in freshmen, every player on the team understands that there are going to be new freshmen coming in every year, but they're supposed to be a veteran. You're supposed to be able to hold those guys off. Occasionally you get a big deal guy who may feel like you've been recruited over. That's why Marvin Clark left when Miles Bridges came in. But with transfers, it's different. That's your coach trying to bring somebody in immediately to play. And if he does it at your position, that's a direct insult to you. That's a direct vote of lack of confidence for you. And I can also understand why you would want to go. Also, before we go here and talk to Zach Osterman here for a minute, a reminder: this is the last week to enjoy some of the fall favorites from Groovy Donuts. Some of my absolute favorites. If you go to groovydonuts.com, you can check these out. These are the pumpkin spice, the apple cider, the caramel apple Bismarcks. Just fantastic fall favorites, and then the red velvet cake donuts and cherry Bismarcks will also be gone till after Thanksgiving. Those will be gone till after Thanksgiving. But this is the last week to get the fall flavors that have been available since September: pumpkin spice, apple cider, caramel apple Bismarcks. Go to groovydonuts.com or stop by either location. That is the on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, or also in Williamston. Let's take a really quick break. When we come back, we'll talk some Indiana football. Then we'll come back to your Groovy Donut Tour questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and our friends at Front 43 Cask and Company, and, of course, our friends at Firekeepers Casino.
Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Skymint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Skymint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Skymint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Skymint Cannabis. You'll love this place. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Visit firekeeperscasino.com to download the mobile app today. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, Front 43 and Cask and Company, and also today presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the iCasino Sportsbook app. It is time now for our Hopcat Interview of the Week, presented by our friends at Hopcat. Go to hopcat.com for location information. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star covers Indiana University football, men's basketball, and at this point, I thought a couple years ago that IU football might be playing in the playoff. It has not happened. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. I appreciate you taking a few minutes. I know you've got chaos in the house there and young ones that need to be tucked in.
Yes. Our brand is chaos these days with two little boys.
That's your personal hell, Jason.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Jason over here thinks he should get a tax break for not having children, which I tend to agree with him in that.
It's helping the people out there. Yeah. Not having a kid.
So, all right. So this program that 2 years ago looked so promising, can you kind of take me in a 10,000-foot view why it's gone so wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there's one answer to that question. I mean, in the way that there's probably never just one answer to that question. There's nothing like this happens. I think I think Indiana certainly captured something, not just in the COVID season. I think as much as anybody else, cynical Indiana fans sort of throw the 2020 season out like the figure skating score from the Russian judge, and I don't think that's very fair. But I think it particularly misses the point when you consider that Indiana went to 3 bowls in 5 years before that across 2 different coaching staffs, 2 different head coaches. And in the 2 years they didn't go to a bowl, they were 5-6 going into the Purdue game. So there was a competitive floor that had been very much raised and, pretty firmly sort of set under Indiana. I think last year was kind of a perfect storm of injuries, disappointed expectations, a really difficult schedule, and a season that just kind of spiraled out of control. I think this season has been less dramatic. I think it's been less sort of, operating at all the extremes and just basically nobody being able to control, kind of the tornado once it really gets spinning. And it's more just been Indiana just hadn't been very good. In particular, I think they have really fallen down in terms of recruiting and developing well along the offensive line. And that has led to offenses that for the last 2 years, and really even, if given the benefit of what we've seen since, if you go back to that 2020 season, you can start to spot some concerning trends that maybe, Michael Penix, Peyton Hendershot, Ty Freifogel, Watt Fillier could kind of basically play Indiana past. But once those guys were either hurt or gone, or both, in the case of all 4 now, you didn't have the playmaking ability to compensate for an offensive line that just has gotten worse. And so you've got a situation where I think the defense is probably regressed in some ways, but not nearly as dramatically. Indiana just can't score points. And if you can't score points, and that's been across the last 2 years, you're not going to win games. And you're going to stretch your defense too much, and eventually it's going to buckle. And obviously, weekends like last weekend are immensely frustrating for fans, but losses to Ohio State are kind of baked in, to a program like this. It's more the tied at the start of the fourth quarter against Nebraska and lost. Played Cincinnati to a standstill except for a 21-0 Cincinnati run in the last 4.5 minutes of the first half, up a possession with the ball inside 8 minutes to go against Maryland at home, 14-0 up against a Rutgers team that struggled to score, and you find a way to lose every one of those games. That's been, I think, the bigger disappointment. And again, it's just been reflective of the fact that Indiana's just not built upon the success I think it had in, kind of the 5 or 6 years preceding last year.
How hard is it for Indiana fans, you think, to see Michael Penix out in Washington doing what he's doing? And how did that – I mean, I know, you and I talked a couple years ago, and you basically said if that guy stays healthy, he's a pro. The question was a big if, and he couldn't at Indiana. Was his decision to leave, was that mutual? How did that happen?
It was mutual, and I don't think Penix has talked a lot about it publicly other than just to kind of thank Indiana. I mean, he was, people forget he was at Indiana for 4 years. And what I said when he left was, people are going to remember him for the injuries. I understand why, but they should remember him for the fact that he accomplished a lot of what he came to Indiana to accomplish. He was a central figure, and I know he never made it to the end of these seasons, and we can have debates about whether or not his health was affected by offensive line play. In some cases it was. In some cases, to be fair, he also just had a couple freak injuries. I mean, one of his ACL tears, he was running out of bounds, and his foot just kind of landed weird. And that was the ACL tear that knocked him out in 2020. The one that he suffered his freshman year in 2018, he basically just kind of slid awkwardly into a Penn State player, and that just rolled his knee up underneath. And there's nothing offensive line play could do to fix that. But I think that, it's probably tough for Indiana fans. I don't think that's unfair. But I also think if you're Indiana, you look around at, the lack of dynamism in your playmakers, again, the way you're struggling with your offensive line. I don't think Michael Penix would solve a whole heck of a lot of problems at Indiana, quite frankly, at this point. That's how much things have progressed. So when he left, I think a lot of it was mutual, and a lot of it was because he had 4 major injuries in 4 years, just wanting to try and find a fresh start somewhere else. And obviously that wound up being Washington with Kalen DeBoer, who was Indiana's offensive coordinator in 2019. But I think that, whatever fans may think about it, I think Indiana's problems run deeper than just not having Michael Penix, and I think probably also if everybody was being sort of, cold-eyed and honest about last season in particular, Michael Penix probably rushed back. I think he wanted to, but he probably pushed himself a little bit too fast to get back, and I think you can see that, and I think you can see the difference in him now having a full year and not having to push himself and rush himself. What he's doing at Washington probably reflects that as well.
Is Tom Allen in trouble?
I don't think he's in trouble this year, and I think that this is kind of a both sides of the coin answer. I think number one, he's not in trouble because his buyout is still pretty substantial at a place that places like Indiana took a smaller COVID hit than some of the bigger football schools in the conference. The problem is it's also going to take them longer to dig out of it, and that's very real. And I think Indiana, to be fair, handed Tom Allen a pretty significant raise while it was racking up that deficit. And I'm not saying he hadn't earned it; he had, but at the same time, I think they've got to be patient there. I would also just argue that this job requires patience, and it requires patience because there aren't quick fixes at places like this. But it requires patience because, listen, historically, two coaches have done what Tom Allen did at Indiana effectively, have back-to-back seasons like that, Tom Allen and Bill Mallory, and that's it. Indiana's never had a 10-win season in its history. Like not one time has this place won 10 games in a single season. They went to the one Rose Bowl in '68. This is a hard job, and there are ways in which it has gotten better. They can pay more competitively now. They've invested 9 figures into facilities that are either exclusively football or primarily football. They pay assistants more. There's more in the recruiting budget, all those different kinds of things. I would even go so far as to say the recruiting, sort of footprint has improved in Indiana, although I think sometimes Indiana fans, when they get, particularly when they're frustrated about the state of their program, can probably overstate that somewhat. I do think that the state of Indiana is producing more, Division I, Big Ten level, Power 5 level football players than it was 20, 25 years ago. But this is still a difficult job. And the reality is that if tomorrow the money was there to just can Tom Allen and move on, you would almost certainly still have to explain to whoever you wanted to hire in his place that you would have to explain why less than 2 years removed from 2 of the best seasons Indiana's had in its modern history, certainly at least since, 1990, you fired the coach that built those seasons and built those teams, because those teams were not just Kevin Wilson holdovers. Those were very much Tom Allen teams. You've got somebody there that's got a formula for winning here. I think you've got to stick with him for a while longer and just see if it can be rediscovered, both out of respect for what he's done and also because if you need to replace him, you need to be able to look the next guy in the eye and tell him he's going to get time. Now, having said all that, listen, Tom Allen is 5, and I'm doing the math very quickly in my head here. Forgive me. I think he's 5 and 21 in his last, or 5 and 19. I think he's 5 and 19 in his last 2 seasons. I don't think anyone will need to tell Tom Allen that's not good enough. And in particular, at a place that had really sort of felt like maybe it had raised its competitive floor a little bit. And the flip side is Indiana can't be too patient. They have, at some point, there has to be a line in the sand that they've got to be unwilling to cross. And Indiana has, in fairness, invested all that money in facilities, invested all that money in Tom Allen, invested all that money in his staff. But at some point, you need to see ROI. That's just how this works. But I don't think he's in trouble this year, both for just the financial position that the department's in relative to his contract, and also because I think, frankly, culturally, you have to be a little bit more patient here, if for no reason other than to sell this job to the next guy.
So, team's been on the skids for weeks now. Obviously, it looks like quarterback situation, unclear who's going to start this week. But I don't sense that physically this is a complete mismatch for Indiana against Michigan State. They're not going to get pushed around. So what I'm wondering about is headspace. Like, do you think Indiana views this as an opportunity to get right, or is this a Are they in the season's over, let's pack it in mode? Like, where do you think they've got a shot this weekend, and they're in the right frame of mind to do it?
Yeah, I don't think that they are as sort of checked out as they were a year ago. I think last year, listen, I think internally Indiana still had realistic expectations for last season. I don't think anybody thought they were going to the playoff, but I think they felt, and justifiably so, that they could be the sort of team that was ranked all year, that maybe pulled off a big upset, maybe knocked off Ohio State on a Saturday night in Bloomington, that sort of thing. Won 8-9 games, went to a bowl, won a bowl. Indiana hasn't won a bowl game since 1991, so maybe they crossed that off the list too. And when things went south, I think you had a roster full of guys, and different people have kind of tacitly admitted this, that maybe some guys were allowed to kind of skate through the offseason between 2020 and 2021, that everybody got just a little bit fat and happy on the success. And I think as much as anything else, I think last year when suddenly the task went from, hey, maybe we're going to be the first Indiana team to win 10 games, maybe we're going to beat Ohio State, maybe we're going to be a dark horse for the Big Ten East, to let's rally together and try to dig our heels in and get 6-6. I think a lot of guys maybe subconsciously looked around and thought, well, I've already done that. I came here to do that. I did it. This was supposed to be something different. I don't know that I've got that kind of mental and emotional reset in me in such a short space of time. And I think that's why last season got away the way that it did, at least in terms of the intangibles. There were obviously some tangible factors. I don't think that this season has spiraled in players' minds in the same way. Now, you never know what a team's going to look like and feel like and act like coming off of a 56-14 loss. I know that when you're in Indiana, you understand not to take the Ohio State game too seriously. But at the same time, those are some big numbers. And so how Indiana swallows that will be interesting to see. I do think if Indiana can set itself in the right frame of mind and almost kind of look at these last two games and say, hey, no bowl game, but win either of these last two, and we finish the season with a trophy, we finish the season with a rivalry win, there's something to celebrate going into the offseason that just kind of kicks this program back into the gear a little bit, then I think they can. I think your assessment's fair. I wouldn't necessarily say Indiana can't get pushed around. Their offensive line, really, I can't underscore enough how poor it's been at times this year. At times it's been passable, but at times it's been very poor. But a lot of it really is going to come down to, in terms of the intangibles anyway, where Indiana is mentally and where Indiana is emotionally, and whether there is, kind of that once more onto the breach attitude left in this team, or whether between the 7-game losing streak, between the fact that bowl eligibility is now officially off the table, between the fact that they're coming off of one of their ugliest losses in recent memory in terms of final score and margin of defeat, it's just hard to say exactly where Indiana is going to be from a mental perspective on Saturday.
Last thing, is this finally the year for Indiana basketball? I mean, they're sort of the ones that everybody back, decent recruiting class. I mean, is this? Do you think, based on what you've seen, what your vibe of them, that this is the year that they sort of at least meet expectations?
I'll be honest with you. I think it might be, and you and I have talked about IU basketball a lot. I think I tend to be more reserved about them than most. I didn't actually pick them to win the conference. Primary reason I didn't was just their schedule, and it remains a very difficult schedule, and I'm still not completely convinced that they can overcome it enough to win the league in a 20-game setting. They only have 5 games against Minnesota, Penn State, Nebraska, and Northwestern, and 3 of those are on the road. They have to play Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois, and Iowa each twice. They've got a very difficult schedule for a team that wants to win the league. But I will be honest, having seen this group, they are balanced. They are really deep. I mean, they have a chance to be the deepest IU team I've ever seen in quality depth, not just we can run a bunch of athletes out there and cause some trouble, but like the second unit is genuinely good in its own right. Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino are, as far as freshmen go anyway, the real deal. I think we'd be talking more about Malik Renew if Trace Jackson-Davis had left and Renew was starting and he had some of the games that he's had. I think he would be getting more hype as things stand. I think he's going to wind up being a 10-6 kind of player despite coming off the bench. I can see, I'm not saying he's going to be a lottery pick or one and done, but I can see the NBA skills in Jalen Hood-Schifino. They're going to have to hit threes. That should go without saying at this point. And I'm past predicting Indiana is going to be a better three-point shooting team. I just need to see it to believe it. But I do think, however you want to quantify it, win the Big Ten tournament, which is something they've never done before. Make it, a deep run in Elite Eight. They haven't been to the Elite Eight since the last time they went to the Final Four, which is 2002. Elite Eight or better, something like that. If you were to say, you can put your money on Indiana winning, accomplishing one of the Big Ten regular season, the Big Ten tournament title, or an Elite Eight or better performance in the NCAA tournament, would you make that bet on at least one of those three happening? At this point, I think I would. Now, what's fun is, from a sports writer's perspective, because, we can never get enough empirical data before trying to make, guesses and estimations. Indiana's got Xavier on the road this weekend. They've got a UNC at home. They've got Arizona and Vegas, and they've got Kansas on the road in December. I think we're going to have a really good idea by Christmas just how good Indiana is. But I have alternated back and forth between presenting reasons for optimism, reasons for skepticism. It's obviously been talked about a lot this offseason. Having gotten to look at them through two exhibitions and two routine, non-conference games, nobody good yet. I'm not going to anoint them or anything like that, but I do think this team's very good. And crucially, I think this team believes it's very good. And sometimes at a place like this where if you don't have that confidence, if you don't have that sort of collective belief and togetherness, the weight of expectation and the pressure of it can crush you. I would be surprised if this team buckles under that. I think they are very, very confident. And if they pick up a couple wins in those non-conference games I mentioned, I think it's only going to serve them better. I think there's a decent chance Indiana basketball is going to be very good this year.
Zach, I look forward to seeing you at least twice on the road this year and then at the Big Ten tournament. And so I always enjoy the double. I like Bloomington. I hate the years Michigan State isn't at Bloomington for a college basketball game, and I'm very glad they're going to be there in late January. Appreciate the time, and we'll chat soon, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
That's Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Does a terrific job covering Indiana. So, Jason, before we get back to the Groovy Donut Twitter questions, take a break here real quick. My takeaway from that, though, Michigan State, Indiana, is the under. I feel like cold day.
What's the number?
That's a good question. Give me some Hoff real quick.
Peacock.
All right, so the over-under is 47.5. Give me the under hard.
Plus, there might be weather. Should we jump on that now?
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's going to be cold. We know that. You've got an Indiana offensive line that doesn't move. A new quarterback maybe. Boy. Michigan State's offense isn't great. I'm telling you, I would tell people jump on the under.
Indiana has not won 10 games ever.
No. Isn't that amazing?
It didn't super surprise me, but when he said it, I just was like, wait, for real?
They might have
ever?
That COVID year, they might have done it. That would have been close. They would have been a 9-type win team that year because they didn't play that many games. But
doesn't Indiana have good donor money, or is it all hoops?
It's all hoops.
Okay.
But that's a problem because you can, if you're a hoop school, you can sound like that's great. The money's still in football. There's just so much. Football drives revenue. But
if your program's not willing to spend and get recruits in here, why pay a coach any type of salary?
But it's also about, but you got to be a football school. You got to keep up with the Joneses for the sake of your department and its revenue, and you've got to try to be it. But people just don't care to the same degree. They check out. They're ready to go to hoops.
Well, can you blame them if they've never won 10 games? There's no possibility of your football team winning 10 games. I would move on to basketball season as fast as I could as well.
But just think about if you think about the schools like Indiana, and this is the problem Indiana basketball has. Indiana basketball is a blue blood. They ought to be in the Champions Classic instead of Michigan State, and their program fell off Michigan State's had been up for a long time at the time that thing started 11 years ago or 12 years ago. And so Michigan State gets the nod. But Indiana is like Kansas, is like Duke, is like North Carolina. North Carolina's had some years in football, but like for the most part, these are places where the football program resembles how much they care about basketball. And Indiana's got that problem. But when you have that problem, you need to be better at basketball. Duke and Kansas and North Carolina, at least, you know, it may suck sometimes on the football field, but the calendar turns and they have a lot of fun. Indiana hasn't been able to enjoy that, and we'll see if it happens this year in basketball. I like parts of their roster. It just hasn't happened with Trace Jackson Davis there. They look pretty loaded, but hey, as we're finding out with Michigan State, hey, fuck depth. Who needs depth, right? You just need, like 6 guys who can really do it. That's the
we're dropping MFers now.
That's the key. That again is our Hopcat interview of the week, presented by our friends at Hopcat, best damn beer bar, world famous Cosmic Fries, and local brewing partners at every Hopcat location, be it Lansing, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Indianapolis, wherever you might be. We are going to take a quick break, come back, dig into more of your groovy donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, Front 43 and Cask & Company, and our friends at Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
If you're looking for a relaxed vibe, great food, and an outstanding beer selection, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing is your place. Enjoy their famed chicken and waffle fries, fish and chips, or any of their delicious burgers or salads. Midtown Brewing Company also offers 40-plus beers on tap, including ciders and seasonal offerings and daily happy hour specials. The spacious and cozy vibe makes Midtown Brewing Company a perfect place for a beer with a friend, a work lunch, or to watch the games on its big screen TVs. If you'd rather eat at home, Midtown Brewing Company offers a terrific carryout menu and free delivery on orders of $20 or more. Visit MidtownBrewingCompany.net or stop by 402 South Washington in downtown Lansing for the Midtown Brewing Company experience. Ever wondered just how comfortable you can be? Find out with Muskox high-quality flannels. Muskox is a Detroit-based company that creates durable comfort that'll last a lifetime. Muskox flannels are thoughtfully designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. This will be the softest flannel you'll ever buy, guaranteed. For every $100 purchase, Muskox will donate $10 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Get comfortable this fall and winter with Muskox flannels. Learn more or order yours today at gomuskox.com.
When it's your moment, that once-in-a-lifetime moment, you don't just want jewelry. You can get that anywhere. You want a memory that will go down in history, your moment. We're Medawar, crafted with exquisite style, quality, and love, so your present will be stunning every time you look at it, every time someone notices it, and they will notice. We've devoted our lives to this art, and we're proud to share it with you. The gift you want to give is here.
Medawar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, Portage, and Brighton.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find our live stream, podcast archives, as well as show, affiliate, and sponsorship information at our website, spotlightmediastudios.com.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 and Cask & Company, which again are doing holiday meal kits this year. Very cool thing for Thanksgiving. Turkey, spiral ham, Nova Scotia salmon, lots of really cool sides and dessert options. If you go to caskandcompany.com, you can place your order today. They'll make the meal. You pick it up on the 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving, and it is a real easy, reheat, and all of a sudden you've got a terrific Thanksgiving meal. Looks like you did a lot of work. And really, Cask & Company and Front 43 did the whole thing. Just a fantastic, fantastic offering. And they've been doing this a few years and to great reviews and terrific success. All right, let's dig back into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
Chris from New York next. Is MSU basketball actually a top 5 quality team? Does it deserve to be ranked as such?
Well, it deserves to be ranked as such because they just lost by 1 to number 2 and beat number 4. Like, I didn't even get the rankings this week. Like, what sort of bullshit ass was that? Like, Michigan State was 26th and Gonzaga was still 2. Like, we have no data. And I understand you may have preconceived notions about teams, but that's just based on gobbledygook and preseason analysis. Like, when you actually have real data, a neutral court that comes down to a last shot in a 1-point game, you can have Gonzaga be 2, but Michigan State sure as hell ought to be in the top 5. You can have Michigan State be 26, but then you sure as hell better put Gonzaga lower than 20. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So,
but Michigan State should be in the top 25 at least.
What?
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of top 5.
Why wouldn't they be top? Why wouldn't they be top 5?
I'm just saying that's how ridiculous it is. Instead of 26, they're not even in the top 25. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I might have to get my AP poll back.
Please do it.
Back just to
you made it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, at this point, are they truly a team that's one of the top 5 teams in the country? I don't know. But they've played the schedule based on the other rankings to earn the right to be in there, at least for now. So
you know who should be in charge of the rankings? Remember that Greg Peterson kid we had on and that has a 4-hour podcast going through every college basketball game? I would trust him.
Boy.
No?
You know who does not like Greg Peterson?
Who?
Harry.
Really?
Remember we brought him up once? And Harry
yeah, but I asked him, and he's like, I don't know who that is. So I think that I think it was just a burp out of Harry.
Harry does
like
burp.
He just had something like because he just went, ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you never know what sound. Because I remember when that happened, now that you say that, I texted him, like, what's the deal with Greg Peterson? He's like, who? I was like, oh, never mind.
Oh, that's the worst. If Harry doesn't know who you are, yeah, it's the worst.
Spartan 18770. Is Maddie starting to play like the next Tillman? Also, why don't listeners understand it's only one question today? WTH.
We combined some. I didn't include a lot. Because we just needed one today because we were doing this combined show. So if you didn't get in, please resubmit next week. And if it's still
and it's really a hard thing to do because we should be honored that anyone wants to write in anything.
I feel like an ass, and sometimes I combine them, and you'll see some of those where it's like, and this, just.
But hopefully you guys understand.
Yeah, no, we don't want to be here till midnight, and frankly, you don't want to listen to us that long.
Yeah.
The next Tillman. Well, so what made Tillman great at the end was what he did against. I mean, defensively, how good he was, and how great he was in those pick and rolls with Winston. I mean, there are signs of early Tillman in Sissoko, and if you remember, Tillman had that game against Zion Williamson where Zion still had 20, but Tillman was fantastic, and so there's been some of that in these last 2 games. I still don't see Sissoko as this sort of lockdown defender guy. I think where he's been solid defensively. I just think he's been great on the glass, and he's been a lot better offensively as a screener and rim runner and catching oops and defensively he's been okay. So we'll see if he starts to take those steps. I think that he's a ways off from what Tillman became, but certainly I'm not going to put anything past Matty Sissoko. I'm not going to doubt the man. He just went from 1.1 a game to a guy who has been fantastic for 2 straight games against really, really, really difficult competition. So whatever he becomes, it would not surprise me.
Lawrence Kearney next. Will the new Matty Sissoko stay true to his new form, please?
See, this is my question. Is not that I think Sissoko will rise up and play well against good centers. The question will become, when he's sort of got the advantage, how does he play? When it feels like, wait, should I be getting buckets here on the low block when that's not necessarily your strength?
You're saying playing up to the competition or playing down to it.
Right. That's where I want to see that. I
don't see that happening.
Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
But I do want to see that a little bit.
And that has to be an ego boost of the past 2 games for Matty, though.
Totally.
Right.
He's got to make sure, though, he stays true to who he is. Because if he doesn't do anything more than what he's doing and just keeps getting better at it, and, if he takes 1 or 2 of those post turnaround jumpers or hooks a game, that's fine. But that just, you can't be overdoing that. That's not who he is in terms of contributing to this team unless it's working. Like against, was it Northern Arizona, he got the mismatch against that 5'9" kid, and they took advantage of it, and he hit a turnaround jump shot. And that's great if you take advantage of mismatches. But I'm very curious to see if he keeps this up. But look, those are 2 games that my doubts are a lot less.
Scooter Rump. next. Nice job on the Izzo locker room interview. As an actual journalist, do likes and warm fuzzy comments increase in direct correlation with big wins and champion invite games? That article deservedly had a lot.
Yeah, certainly they do. Readership and subscribers is more important. You want to write the right column. It's fun when you write a column that you think is interesting and you think people are going to enjoy and you think people are going to like and people are excited about a team. There's no doubt that's fun. But yeah, but it doesn't really matter to you. You want to write something that resonates, that people find interesting. Like one of my favorite columns I wrote last year was the basketball game at Penn State where Izzo wouldn't let his players speak to the media for the first time ever since I've been on the beat. And Solari was not happy about it. But I saw it as an unbelievable opportunity. That was fascinating to me. Like that, it showed how exasperated he was with that team. This is a guy who, in that same location, Brandon Dawson had thrown Adrian Payne through a wall, and he made both those guys available, and the locker room was open after the game. And yet, after just a frustrating game last year, he was like, "I'm so sick of this team. I don't want to hear from them. And so
coach my team."
Like that wasn't a game where people were happy, but that was a really interesting column to write. And so that's more what's fun. Now, yesterday was interesting too. I mean, talking to Izzo in that side room of the locker room and watching him all of a sudden as he started mentioning the players and what was happening, and you could just see his lip and his eyes start to well as he looked down. Like it was true raw emotion from him. And when you capture that and you capture a moment, you're kind of alone with him too in that setting. Like that's stuff you got to write.
Riley next. Graham, be honest. How big of a smirk did you have on your face when you typed the words sweat equity in the first two lines of the 3 quick takes? A lot of us had that in the bingo card.
Yeah, I'm guessing you did.
I even put that in my notes about the game. Like, Graham, sweat equity.
Yeah.
He's going to say it.
Yeah, no, yep. I was, the problem with sweat equity is, as much as I love it, I'm writing to a couple different audiences. I'm writing for people who listen to the show and know what that means, and basketball people and know what that means. But they're also people like my mother and casual readers of the Lansing State Journal that hear sweat equity and they have no freaking clue. So you got to be a little careful you don't overuse it. But I was very happy with it.
So you're saying old people don't know what sweat equity means?
Well, yeah, I mean, my mother probably was totally lost on that line.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not that old yet, so I don't know. I know it's
not really old. It's just a lack of sports knowledge, so to speak.
All right. Max Christians next. Graham, how hard was it to not use the phrase matchup proof in your post-game pieces?
Not hard, because I don't think they're matchup proof, and there's not enough. You can't be matchup proof if when your backup centers come in, you're just getting trucked. That you're not matchup. You're not matchup proof. But I do think defensively they're as good as I've seen in a while, and when they're got their top guys out there, and when look at Joey Hauser in this game when they don't put him at center. He had a difficult matchup in Toppin's a legitimate forward, but he wasn't dealing with some behemoth big man, and so he doesn't lose his confidence defensively, which affects his offense. And look what happens on the other end. Michigan State is better off getting trucked with Kohler and Cooper in the game than ruining Hauser by putting him at the 5 for a little bit, which isn't going to go that much better defensively. So in certain matchups, they can play that small ball lineup, I think. But if it's going to be one where Hauser's just getting taken to school down there and he's not feeling great about himself and he's getting beaten up, that doesn't do them any good. And so I think that's one of those things they've got to be aware of. By the way, if you want a matchup-proof groovy donut or a sweat equity groovy donut, they'll put those on a donut. You could do a whole basketball theme with Michigan State. You could do the team. You could have a Jaden Akins. Monica will happily design the whole team. Pierre Brooks, Jaden Akins. She'll put their faces on donuts. She'd do all that. If you wanted a Michigan State basketball team donut, or to have donuts this weekend as you watch the game Friday night against Villanova, and the game just a few hours later Saturday against Indiana on football, maybe the women's soccer game this Friday night, and also Sunday potentially at Notre Dame. Groovy Donuts, great companion for your weekend. Go to groovydonuts.com, place your order. Or just want 6 donuts, half dozen donuts, go to either Groovy Donuts location, open 7 a.m. Don't show up at 7 p.m. 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Thursday through Sunday, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, and also in Williamston.
Ryan Schultz next with this one. On this show, whenever Jaden Akins gets brought up, it feels like we always say, well, he's coming back from injury. In that same vein, could Oscar Tshwibi have looked a lot better under ordinary circumstances? And was his injury a significant component to our victory?
Tshwibi, it's close, though. You were pretty good on that. I call him Oscar, too, because it's so hard.
Oscar T.
Yeah.
Cockburn.
No, I mean, that's a fair point. Like, if Oscar has played 3 or 4 more games, he might have been more difficult. We'll see what Akins is. You know, if he didn't foul out, people could say, well, that totally changed the game. Yeah, but if
Grandma had balls, she'd be Grandpa.
Yeah, and if Sissoko wasn't in foul trouble the whole second half, there are 4 or 5 possessions that Kentucky scores on that they might not score on, right? So it's a different game. The foul trouble is part of it. Should have 6 fouls. We talked about that. But so totally, I think that's. I don't know how significant of a component it was because Jaden Akins is somebody they're counting on at a very high level, and Tshwibi, it was, I thought, pretty damn impressive at times and pretty good force either way. So I don't know to what degree he would have been different.
Steve next. From an untrained eye, seems as if opposing guards are not driving into MSU's interior versus previous years. What say you?
I think MSU's guards are doing a pretty good job of, and not just the guards, but I mean, what makes MSU's defense at its best great is the gap help defense in the way. I mean, they've got, when you have got, Sissoko's been good, but the thing about Hauser and Malik Hall is they've been playing an MSU system a long time. And whatever limitations they have, it isn't knowledge. They know where they're supposed to be. They know when they're supposed to help. That's the way Hauser gets a lot of his rebounds in that game, was coming over to help, being there when somebody else challenged a shot. He was there to clean up the glass. So some of that's, I think they've got good defensive guards. I think Walker is exceptional. I think Akins is really good there, and Hogard can be too. And so that's a really good dynamic. But I also think they've got bigs who understand where they're supposed to be, and they're making it challenging. But really what they did against Kentucky is they took away the shooting. And 2 of their guys who were really counting on hitting threes, and Michigan State took those guys out. This team, more than any team in a while that I've covered, follows the scouting report exceptionally well. I think you can tell Izzo's really, really happy about that.
Andy Schofield next. What are the top 3 qualities about this MSU basketball team?
I think number 1, it's the flexibility, versatility. Is the idea that you've got guys who, I mean, you've got a number of guys who can play multiple positions. So you don't have great depth, but you have depth through versatility, and that allows different lineup combinations and other things. And I think that's going to save them this year. I think Sissoko, having a big man that's capable, is everything. Because look what that. I mean, can you imagine if Cooper and Kohler were the whole game? How badly this would be going for them? You know what I mean? It just right. So that's a big thing. And I think their backcourt is not just fearless, but I just think their backcourt is better than people realize. They may not be NBA guys, but they're going to be better than most college guys, and they're seasoned, and they got great guard play, and I think that's
Tyson Walker. He can hit those tough shots for you too.
He can create. Yeah, they got a number of guys who do different things, and you could see it with Hauser when he was hunting shots. Just the confidence he had. Malik Hall looks like a confident. They look like a confident team full of. So they got experience. They got old people on their team. You want to be old in college basketball, and they got really good guard play, and they got a big man they can count on, and and then they got flexibility and versatility. I don't know if that's 3 or 4, whatever.
And they like each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about this team early on that are good, and I think part of that goes to Izzo. I mean, Izzo sold that to these guys. Hey, I'm not getting a transfer. You're my guys. It's going to be a smaller rotation. You're going to play. I need you. This is I recruited you. I'm committed to you. And I think there's an appreciation there.
Drew, VB next. Do you agree there hasn't been a MSU basketball team in the last decade with more guys who have the potential to take over a game and have spectacular game-winning performances like Walker and Hogard and Hauser, Hall, and Akins? We are not relying on 1 to 2 guys to carry us each game.
No doubt. I mean, sometimes those teams, when you don't have you have a lot of guys, you really don't have any guy because you don't know who's going to have the ball when you need it late. Like who's ready to make that play. But we saw in this last game that, like, I thought it was a really smart play to go to Hogard, and he got a shot blocked by Oscar down at, and Oscar's like, checking his watch or whatever and tapping his watch after that block shot. And then they went to Hall, and it was supposed to be for Hauser on the inbounds play after that, and Hall broke free from Oscar. And then you see just some of the things that Tyson Walker did down the stretch. And you see the Malik Hall down the stretch, and you see the play they came up with. I think there's a lot of guys who right now feel really good about being the man down the stretch. And so that, as long as it's not, they've got a lot of guys, but really nobody wants to be that guy, then I think they're a difficult team to defend, because I don't think you honestly know what Michigan State's going to do at the end, and I think they've got 2 or 3 decent options.
Max Spade next. Kohler looks like a teddy bear. Cooper looks like a baby moose, and they both look lost and out of place the last 2 games. Akins looks like he wants to seek out the other team's best defender to take off the dribble. How does each need to develop for MSU to make a run?
Cooper, I just think, needs to get more solid, more experience, more. I look at his athletic ability, and I just think he needs time on the court. And he'll get a little of it time in practice. He needs to get beat up against.
Well, Michigan State better blow some people out so he can get on the court.
Well, but it's also just facing Sissoko in practice, right? It's just constantly playing, But yeah, no, it's he needs some time. Kohler looked a little bit better, but yeah, I'm curious to see. I think Kohler's a savvy guy with a lot of confidence who's starting to understand that unless he can hold up defensively, he loves to play offense. He's got no chance to do any of that shit unless he can hold up defensively. And Akins, it's the whole thing. Like, I mean, he's a guy who wants to take shots. He wants to drive. I think he's just got a sort of, like, from everything I've heard, he was a guy who could take you off the dribble, could pull up on a shot. Like, he could do a lot of things that he just doesn't look quite in rhythm doing right now. And I think Akins just needs court time to see where, to me, I think I said this in a previous show, I'm not going to judge him till December. In the beginning of December, he's had a month against all these guys. Like, we'll see what Jaden Akins is at that point when he's had a month to play.
Kenton up next. Did the game against Davidson last year give Hauser the confidence to do what he did today and hopefully the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has it. The fact that – I was talking to Izzo today about this. They had an availability right after practice again today. And Izzo said that even in San Diego, where he gets 2 early fouls, he's sitting on the bench and it's 60 degrees and he's cold. It's a hard game. It's windy. It's not a great day. Things don't go well. He's guarding the center. Like, he didn't look like he did a year ago. He didn't look like head down, sort of out of it. He was frustrated by the game, but it didn't affect him, which I think is a really good sign. Because Joey Hauser is going to have more games that don't go perfectly. He's going to have foul trouble at some point throughout the season. He's going to have a game where they're in foul trouble, Sissoko is, and you know what? He's got to deal with it the 5 more. He's going to have a game where shots don't fall. The real key is it doesn't become a slump. Michigan State's got the dudes that survive Hauser having an off day. They don't need him to get 23 every night against most of the Big Ten. The key is the next day, next game, he comes back and gets 15. And so far, every conversation I've had with him, he sounds and looks like a different dude. And that goes back to last spring when I met with him. He's lost some weight. He just looks like he's enjoying life, and he's a real piece. And I don't know how he got to that point, but when he committed to coming back, he just felt like he was in a really good place, and you got to be happy for the kid.
Brent VB with this one. There's pretty regular talk about Izzo and working officials and losing his mind. I can't recall a moment in the game where the cameras caught this last night. They mentioned how Cal got the call in the second half due to his working the officials. And from what you saw, was Cal more animated throughout the game? Izzo, for most of the game, seemed relaxed and letting the guys play.
Yeah, I do think Izzo likes this team and is comfortable with these guys and trusts them in certain settings.
He looked the same to me last night.
He looked like he was going at it?
Well, I mean, yeah, he was yelling at guys at timeouts and stuff. I don't think he was totally laid back. I know he was sitting on the scorer's table when that out of bounds play happened, but
Indianapolis is the worst place for the Champions Classic from a media standpoint because we sit up fairly high where they have the media where the Pacers sit. Like when the Big Ten tournament's there, they set up whole separate tables down low, and other settings were down low. So it would, I watch some with binoculars, some on the big screen, some on my phone, but it's hard to get a good sense of Izzo's being animated. And frankly, I've just seen it so much I don't pay a lot of attention to it. But I do think he trusts this team in certain ways. What's going to be fascinating is one area I think he's curious about is they've been a really hungry team, sort of the hunters a little bit, to prove. And now they've gotten some respect. They're going to be favored against Villanova. They're going to be at home. Like, do they have that sort of edge to them every time out? And that'll be interesting this Friday.
Plus-size softball dad next. Isn't enough with the suspensions for most of the state 8? There's no way most of the players are facing criminal charges. They should be able to play at this point.
Yeah, they're not going to play this week, I don't think, which, if I'm trying to think of any of them, this will be it for them. And Winmon will have to decide, does he have another year? I mean, I think he could have another year if he wants. But, yeah, I don't think this late in the week, what are we at, Wednesday night? If they're not back, I just don't see any of them playing. I think it would be a shame if going into next week there isn't some resolution for some of those guys. I think Michigan State pretty much knows the crump that, he's not going to play this year. Whether he plays again there, I don't know. But the others, to varying degrees, 3 games might be enough,
I would hope so.
And so, yeah, those things need to be and frankly, if they're not going to, at a certain point, if you're not going to hear from the prosecutor's office or you don't have the police reports and you're the schools, you just got to start to make your own decision and do your own thing. The police asked you to wait. They want to do the interviews. Well, they need to share that information so you can make the best informed decision you can. And I think by the beginning of next week, that should happen.
Sports Guy 1919. If you had to draft Thanksgiving food, what would be your number 1 pick? What common food gets left off your board?
Green bean casserole is it, man. If you put that in front of me right now, after a groovy donut, I would probably devour. Like I could devour a tray of it right here, right now.
I would trade all of my picks for a pizza. I'm not a fan of Thanksgiving food.
Okay.
Like a fried turkey, circle, like a ham. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, no,
I'm not a big Thanksgiving person.
I like most of it, but I like food. So
no shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying
sweat
to
equity.
Yeah. Oh man, meat sweats is what it is. Yeah. I'm trying to think what would be left off my board. There's some stuff I'm not hugely, but I like
cranberry
too.
sauce.
There's not a lot of food I don't
Mashed
like.
Potatoes.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Gravy.
Yeah.
Donuts. Mr. Neurotic Pants. If fans ask private citizen Mark D'Antonio for an autograph, does he snarl at them or is he happy to make small talk? I heard he snuck onto the ship last week for the game.
I'm sure he didn't sneak on. Although I'll be honest, security was not tight. Like it's easier to get into Breslin than it was to get, or harder to get into Breslin than it is on that ship for a media person. But you had to go through clearance, and you did have to have your ID to get on the base and all that stuff. And you had to go through.
So what else do you need for security purposes, though?
Well, they didn't.
Seems like a lot.
They didn't check our bags, like you'd think.
So what are you going to bust out a joint and start smoking it, or what?
Well, people could have weapons or things like that. And it's not a smart place to have a weapon because the sailors are armed. So like you would be taken out pretty quickly if you did something stupid. I'm not saying
you're going to rob the ship or what? What would be the goal there? This Ocean's 13 plan of yours,
right? No, I'm not saying there's a plan. I'm just saying the security didn't seem very tight. Is all I'm saying. But Mark D'Antonio. So yeah, I did not see him there. I know he was there. Mark Hollis was there. A number of people were there. What's his Bob Myers, the president of the.
Would you ask anyone for their autograph? Not Michigan State related, but at your age, do you think you're too old to ask someone for an autograph?
Well, to me, I think it's shit if you sell an autograph if you're an adult. But
I'd rather have a picture with the person.
That's what I'm saying. I don't find any value in an autograph. In terms of personal. Yeah. Enjoying that's so and so's signature. I'm
a baseball card guy, so I do have autographs in my collection, but I don't know if I go out and if I see someone. But if I saw Bo Jackson, I'd be like, oh shit, get the camera. I wouldn't ask for his autograph.
No, I would ask somebody to take a picture with me. Yeah, much more because that's cooler, and you can put that on the mantle and people see it, and it's kind of fun. I would do that. I don't think I'd ever ask.
And there are those guys out there that have a stack of your photo, want you to autograph 90 of them, or have kids do it.
Have you ever been asked for an autograph?
For what?
Just somebody asked you for your autograph.
Yeah, the judge. After she sentenced me to prison. DC Spartan. Given the recent string of games, is MSU a top 5 team? I don't expect for us to get that high this week, but in theory, it seems like we should be. Having beaten a top 4 team and controlling 75% of the game against the current number 2, just feels like, how could we not be?
Yeah, sorry, I meant to combine this. Absolutely, and you have to be. I mean, it's just based on logic. We have very little evidence other than the games that have been played, and the preseason polls, as soon as there are games, should almost go out the window as much as you can when there are these big programs playing each other, and you think there's other evidence. So yeah, I mean, at this point, Michigan State has to be a top 5 team. Are they a top 5 team? I don't know, but the poll is supposed to be based on something. So yes.
DC Spartan. Could this MSU team now be a 1-year group? You always go on about this 2-year group stuff, but it feels like if either Kohler or Cooper develop by January or February, we could do some damage in the tournament. And from DeUper, you pretty consistently said last year's team was a 2-year group. This year is year 2 for the last year's 2-year group. They look good, but still have a lot of holes. With the top recruiting class on the way, is this year's team in the real 2-year group?
Yeah, so in other words, is next year the real second year? Yeah, and I think that's more likely. Like, I was counting on, when I called last year a 2-year group, I really thought Max Christie would be part of this year. Thought he'd have a little better year last year, or even if it was the same, it would be part of things. And, you know, I didn't know Sissoko was going to be as good, though. So there were things I didn't see about it. But I thought last year had but this team is better than I thought they'd be so far. And
but with Sissoko, other than Izzo and the coaching staff and other players, who knew Sissoko was going to do what he did the last 2 games?
So, but the point is, could they do damage in the tournament this year? Absolutely, because I think we just saw them take Gonzaga to 1 point and beat Kentucky in overtime. Like, there's nobody that I've seen yet that Michigan State on the right day can't beat. Great guard play, and they got a center that can hold up, and they've got guys that can score, and they've got guys that can defend on the perimeter. And they got veterans. They're going to be a team that, you know, I don't know what seed they'll be. I don't know what kind of Big Ten season they'll be. But if they're a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament and they're facing a 1, you don't want to face them as a 4 or 5. That's a seasoned group that thinks they can beat you. Those guards think they can beat you. But in terms of trying to win a national championship, and I'm not saying this group couldn't have that sort of run, but when you start to look at the potential for next year, and they're probably losing Hauser, you probably got Hall back if he wants to another year. Sissoko certainly back. The beauty of Sissoko is he's like a 6'8", 6'9" guy. He's not going anywhere. It's just not. I mean, you got him. You know, he got his COVID year if he wants it. He could have this year and 2 more if he really wanted it. Hogard, who I think could play himself to be an NBA guy, you know, looks like he still has work to do. We'll see what Walker decides to do. They've got a number of guys. I mean, and then you've got this freshman class. It becomes really intriguing. You could have a great mix of old and young and talent, and next year really could be the 2-year group. Again, though, in this era, you never know who stays, who leaves. The good news for Michigan State is all those guys signed. So it's not like those are just commits who, you know, could still not come. Like, you got 4 guys that are signed on the dotted line and are planning to beat Michigan State.
Captain Dave, MSU, should we be extra hyped about this MSU basketball team, or is it the 2020 Duke basketball game all over again?
So that's my actual worst take. Worse than any other take I've ever done is the column I wrote after that game, where I basically said that the team in December 2020, after this, he's not talking about the he's talking about the 2020 2021 season, right? Where they beat Duke in an empty Cameron Fieldhouse, and I basically declared that team without Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman was better than the year before.
Instead of the, you know, right? Call.
Just shit. I mean, like, I don't think people should be fired for their takes, but that's close. That's like, I'm not sure if I was an editor, I'd want me writing a column again.
Wow.
That's pretty bad. I don't know what, because in my defense, I wasn't there. That we were covering everything. Everything was Zoom. Everything was done on television. So you didn't have a feel like when you're in person. There's no defense. I apologize. There's no defense. But this is different because this is 2 games. I think Kentucky is very clearly a very good basketball team. Gonzaga has a proven 2-time consensus All-American is on the roster. It's not like they brought in this group of freshmen who are supposed to be good, but nobody really knows. So I don't, you know, MSU is a baseline, is a pretty damn good team at this point.
Chuck Nichols next. Is it true that everyone on this year's basketball squad could return if they choose to next year because of COVID? Understanding Hauser would have to petition for medical year.
My guess is Hauser doesn't want to come back. Now, he may love this year and decide never to leave, but it sort of makes me think about it. Like I talked to Xavier Henderson about this week. You know, if he had thought about not coming back after he got hurt and, so he could have a year where he's fully healthy for NFL guys, a sixth year, he would have had to not come back and play more than 4 games this year. And he just said, I love this place, but I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to be done. It's 5 years of college. I've done it, and my sense is that this is Hauser's year. So, but it is true. I mean, that COVID year is going to make figuring out rosters weird for a while. And Tyson Walker could absolutely come back next year. Malik Hall can absolutely come back next year. Those guys are going to have decisions to make.
DeUper next. Every year, the Big Ten has at least one big white guy who seems like he's been around for 10 seasons. Is Joey Hauser this season's that guy is still here guy?
The rest of the Big Ten, he probably is. Been around a while. I don't know.
I like Brad Davison or something. Like he felt like every time you saw him because he was kind of annoying.
Yeah, there's usually a guy in Iowa. And C.J. Frederick being on Kentucky, I thought that hurt Kentucky. Michigan State players, like Kentucky's got an aura to them, a mystique. You put a dude who played 2 years at Iowa, got his ass kicked at Iowa on that roster. Michigan State's guys are like, we can take that guy. You never want a guy from Iowa as one of your transfers if you're at a school that has a mystique and an aura
unless it's
them.
Keegan Murray or somebody.
Yeah.
Of that ilk.
Yeah.
DC Spartan, what's both of your favorite Sky Mint products? You guys strictly edible guys?
I am strictly an edible guy, and
really,
pretty much.
You never smoke a joint? I think we should burn one before a show.
I mean, I have before certainly, but these days I'm strictly an edible guy, and I like I usually have a nice assortment of Sky Mint edible products in my pantry. And that's how Raccoon Graham comes out, really. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I'm Sky Mint.
Yeah, I'm an edible guy, and I like some of the short stuff too. That's not always their brand. I like some of theirs as well, but I always have I would say a stash, so to speak. How about you? You are more of a mixture of Sky Mint.
Oh yeah, there's edibles, but I like the loose. I like the weed. I like the joints. Makes me happy. Professor, with Dwayne Stevens in Kalamazoo, who is working with the big guys, how much credit do they get for early Sissoko success?
Yeah, it's Doug Wojcik, and I think he deserves some. And, Izzo basically said the strength and conditioning coach did a great job with his balance, too, this year. He's very different. His legs aren't flying up. He's sort of in control of himself, which had a lot to do with his offseason there. So I think all those guys deserve credit. Sissoko deserves a lot of credit because I think he's worked his ass off. But I think anytime there's really good development, the coaching staff deserves it too.
G.E. Miller, over under how many games MSU loses this year by not having a serviceable backup 5 for defense. Already at 1, almost 2, over under. Almost 2, okay. Over under how many games MSU loses this year with AJ not developing a serviceable shot in the offseason.
Well, we'll see. I mean, in the first game of the year, he hit, 2 threes? Was it 2 for 3 from 3 or something like that? Was that the exhibition? I think that was the first actual game. It all blends together. But I don't know that we know yet if Hoggard has a serviceable shot. I mean, he thinks he does. He certainly did over the summer. He thinks that was real, even though I asked him about the whole Moneyball bullshit thing in terms of shooting. So we'll find out there with Hoggard. How many games does MSU lose by not having a serviceable backup 5 and maybe they will by the end of the year. But let's say it is going to probably cost them 2 or 3 games. But the counter would be if they had brought somebody in and Sissoko left and they had lost 10 more games, would that be worth it?
Chris Fletcher next. If AJ can't keep the defense honest with any kind of jumper, he's going to keep turning it over and forcing himself into the paint. He could be a poor man's Valentine, but seems closer to Tum Tum. How long until we see any confidence from him on a shot?
Yeah, don't do the tum-tum thing in this sense. Like, I mean, on the shot, you can argue that, but tum-tum had zero confidence offensively and just didn't see the floor. And he just didn't see it. He didn't see the game, and that is not. I mean, Hoggard had a couple passes yesterday. Just gets in the rim, just wicked whip passes. I mean, he is Hogard is a force on the drive and the paint, and that shot would help, and he's turning the ball over at a clip that's a little too high right now. But, the Valentine thing is, like, there are things he does that Valentine didn't do as well. Like, I think downhill, he can be difficult in ways Valentine wasn't. Valentine's a better player overall, better shooter, 6'5", a little bit taller, just was in complete control of everything. But you see some of that, and Tum Tum Nair never controlled a basketball game offensively in his time at MSU ever, and AJ's already done that quite a bit.
Darryl Winningham, does Izzo deserve praise for his plays coming out of a timeout so far? Shake my head. They lost at the end of the Gonzaga game, and same thing last night, but were saved by missed Kentucky free throws. They overcame it, and that's where I'll give praise, not folding under the pressure.
So they do. I mean, they deserve credit for the coaching staff and the players all getting better since the Gonzaga game. I did not think what they came up with coming out of the timeout, and I know Walker slipped a little bit, and maybe that makes a difference. It was not. I would have gone to Hogard, given the way that game was going, headed downhill, let him make a decision. That was the Gonzaga game. That's what they did last night or Tuesday night, and he got blocked by a really good center out of bounds, and then they went to some other stuff, and they had a couple really good out of bounds plays. I think that's just that's learning, growing, knowing your personnel. I thought they did a really nice job with that. Now, and they do deserve praise for hitting free throws, making the plays where it counted.
Matt C., where does Izzo give MSU an advantage with his in-game coaching? To me, his substitutions and offensive system have really gone downhill in the second half of his career.
Yeah, offensive system stuff is in-game has never been what I think of his strength. I think where, there was a shot by a Kentucky player yesterday, just a wild three, where he just went back down and played defense, and Izzo would have taken that guy out of the game. And I think the accountability, whether you believe in it or not, whether you think guys should play through mistakes or not, Izzo is quick to hold guys to account, and I think later in their careers, the evidence has shown, and it's the reason they've won, that's worked for him. Are there times it's frustrating where you're like, let that dude stay in, that wasn't that bad a deal? Yes, absolutely. So I think that's a real strength. The defensive stuff is why he's in the Hall of Fame, and the attention to detail defensively and his understanding of seeing what's happening there and ability to adjust and the stuff they do. That's his strength.
Mojo Jojo, how would this MSU team be different if Christie had stayed? Would they be better, worse, or simply different? And from Spartan Mark. Anyone else think we got some addition by subtraction? Team chemistry looks excellent, especially on defense.
It would be a different team. I don't know if they'd be better or worse. If Christie had it's a long, talented, athletic wing who was supposed to be a really good shooter and didn't shoot well last year, but I think might have had a good year shooting the ball. It might have made a difference. Would have it limited what Akins became? Certainly. Would have it prevented Hall and Hauser playing together? Yes. So would have it hurt Pierre Brooks, and we'll see what he develops into? I don't think Christie's necessary for this team. I think this team really likes each other, and I don't know. I'm not saying Christie was unliked, but I don't think he's needed for chemistry. So, and is there addition by subtraction? I think that Gabe Brown was a volume guy who was limited and sort of maxed out who he could be and just didn't hit enough shots for a leading man. And there really isn't a leading man like that this year, a guy that is going to, nobody on this team is going to go, I don't think, 3 for 15. And I'm not sure how many times Gabe Brown did that, but it just feels like somebody else is going to be shooting if that sort of shooting performance is happening.
Matt Venny, next. Which form of football scheduling would you prefer? Playing more conference games with the non-conference games being against cupcakes, or playing less conference games and using the non-conference to play tougher opponents and reviving old rivalries that were lost to realignment?
What would you prefer? Playing more conference games with cupcakes or fewer with tougher non-conference opponents?
I don't know.
Good reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you can do both to some degree, but I like playing. If you're going to be in a conference, you should play your conference. So if you're going to make your conference 30 fucking teams, then you ought to play at least 9 goddamn games.
Sissoko season. Better chance MSU football finishes the season 8-5 or basketball wins the Big Ten? And Couch, what is your beef with Tottenham in the Premier League? I could hear it in your voice in the last podcast.
Here, my beef with Tottenham is this: I don't understand. I've struggled to understand how adults can become fans of teams that they weren't fans of kids without having a connection, and that's with all the Premier League. And it just feels like Tottenham is the place that most people are fans of. So there's just, and I have a lot of friends, and I like to give some of my friends beef. James Edwards, Phil Friend, who are Tottenham fans, like, why aren't you a Middlesbrough fan? Why aren't you a Derby County fan? Why Tottenham? It's so freaking random. And I also was on a bus with a bunch of Tottenham fans years ago, and they were annoying as piss, and so that led to it. MSU football finishes 8-5, or basketball wins the Big Ten. Better chances MSU basketball, I think, wins the Big Ten probably. That's a good question. But I think MSU basketball has shown that it looks like it might be, a top 3-4 Big Ten team. And beating Indiana, Penn State, and winning a bowl game seems like a lot for this football team.
Gator next. If MSU football wins out, what bowl game will that put them in?
I don't even think they need to win. I don't know how much that'll even make a difference. 6-6 or 7-5, because it becomes about brand and the choice of the bowl. And some of those teams in the West have smaller football brands. I think there's a chance there's a game in Phoenix, Arizona on like the 27th, 31st round. Or I don't know when it is. It's after Christmas, before the New Year. And there's a game, the Duke Mayo Bowl in Charlotte, North Carolina. Those would be my two best guess. I don't think they wind up in Detroit. The brand is too big at 6-6 relative to some of the other schools who will be available that won't be that much better than their record.
Ryan Rockwell. Graham, did you get your wife a Musk Ox flannel for when she snow blows the driveway this winter? Appreciate you both.
Appreciate you, Ryan. I have she will wear mine if she wants it. I'm ordering some Musk Ox flannels as Christmas gifts, and may include her.
How is she going to shovel the driveway with a tarp on? What do you mean? She's going to wear yours? XXXL.
It's just 1X.
Oh.
She can fit in it. And by the way, it may snow tomorrow. I'll have to get the snowblower ready for her. I mean,
tell her to start stretching.
She'll be fired up for that.
Kevin Keekley, did you see the Sports Illustrated feature on long snappers? Credit Couch for shining a light on these often overlooked specialists.
I didn't realize they had done that. No,
Is it SI Maven?
No, it's probably the actual. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't get Sports Illustrated anymore. I used to get it.
Bummer.
Do you still get it?
No. Why would you get it? It's like 2 pages long.
Is it? Yeah. No,
it's just not the same.
Yeah, and it was like an annual gift from somebody, and at some point, I wasn't reading it enough, and I was like, I don't know that you need to keep giving me this.
Alex Maranaville, can you still bench 10 reps at 225? Real question. This is the most impressive win for MSU since, is it Duke in 2019?
It was 12 reps at 225. Jason was there to witness it.
Could you do it tomorrow?
No. Right. No, I am not benching at all, and I hurt my wrist this summer. I would, but I could get it back in 8 weeks, something like that, without too much trouble.
How'd you hurt your wrist?
It took a softball off the end of it this summer. Playing pitching, just rock it up the middle, bone bruise, So in other words, for a long time, I couldn't even do like a push-up, and then I hurt my foot, so I couldn't do a push-up that way. I had no excuses. This is horrible. Cut this in post, please. I'm the worst.
Let's keep going.
JD. Hold on. The most impressive win for MSU since, you say, Duke 2019, I would say that is probably right. Yeah, that is probably right. Since that last NCAA tournament win, I'm probably missing something in there, because there was that, when they had to make the NCAA tournament in 2021, or it looked like they were going to miss it, and they won like that stretch where they beat Illinois and Michigan. That stretch was a pretty impressive stretch, but this is as good as it gets in the non-conference in a long time.
JD, does Jay Johnson continue to not be the coordinator speaking at the press conferences, imply he's a dead man walking?
I don't think so. I was hoping he'd be this week. They gave Ephraim Reed out there, and Ephraim's, I like talking to Ephraim, but I'm hoping Jay Johnson will be available next week. Certainly he will at some point before the season is done. Now, they're going to be the bowl game now, so that at some point we'll get to talk to Jay Johnson. At some point I will ask him about 4th and 1 and quarterback sneaks.
Nick Palmer, which Major League Baseball team has the best hat?
Who's your hat? Who's your team that, like, even if they're not your team, it's like, I love that.
The San Diego Padres. I know it's simple, but I went there when I was younger, in 95, so I I went to a game there. I just love I love the blue look of the hat with the either white or was it yellow or something. So
yeah, no,
it's pretty simple.
No, and it's amazing how it's just like football helmets. When you're young, like you get that emotional attachment to something that looks really cool. Like I loved the Baltimore Orioles for a long time. Like I loved when they had the helmet with the white, the little orange bird and the white kind of triangle.
Because of Cal Ripken.
I didn't even. It wasn't even Cal. It was just I liked.
Brady Anderson.
I'm much more simpler than that. It was just like shiny objects. It's a helmet that I liked. It's all it was.
Jason Akins, do you think Izzo's plan this basketball season is to play the best teams in the half court, scoring in the 60s? Or are these low-scoring games the result of playing better defense? Why do you think Sissoko is not getting as many looks?
As many fouls. Because he's just in control of himself, and he understands how important he is. But he's mostly in control of himself. I don't think the plan is the 60s. The plan is, though, to rebound and limit teams in transition and to play great defense, and they've done that. I think it's a product of the type of defense they're playing. They'd like to get out and run still, even with a limited bench and all that. And part of it is they didn't shoot well early yesterday, so it wound up 62-62 in regulation. But, yeah, they're just playing really good defense. If you ask Izzo right now, that's where he thinks they're a great team right now. It's just defense.
Couch on Fire. 2 snow questions. 1A. We talk about the impact of the Xavier Henderson loss on the MSU defense, but what about Darius Snow? Lost our 2 best leaders in the first game. 1B. Are A.J. Hogard and Tyson Walker becoming the poor man's version of Eric Snow and Iverson at Philly?
So quickly to Darius Snow, because the next question is even more interesting. Darius Snow, I think, was a huge loss for this team. Just talking to Scotty Hazelton a week ago, for what they wanted to do sort of in a hybrid with the extra linebacker, defensive back, and what he allowed them to do, and a smart player, kind of like Henderson in that sense, massive loss. And he's going to be really important when they don't have Henderson next year to have another, smart guy back there, in other words. Hogard and Walker, poor man Snow and Iverson. Like, they're just, like, no. I mean, Snow was I get what you're saying. Yeah, but you got to have an Iverson. Like so Walker'd be your Iverson, and Hogard be your Snow. Like, I guess. Like,
I think it'd be the other way around.
No, see, that's the problem is you don't have a clear cut there. Like, Walker's your guy who gets his own shot through. Like, yeah, no, it's just not. You need somebody who's a volume shooter like Iverson, who you kind of have to build everything around, and that's not. But I like the thinking aloud.
I wish that'd be awesome to have an Iverson type player,
no doubt.
Joel Green next. Even though Jason was floating on at least 30 mg of Sky Mint cloud with a nearly 3-hour basketball game, did any of those titillating, sexy set pieces from Malik Hall, dunks, or Walker to Matty lobs get you out of your seat? Did Sky Mint start a name, image, and likeness with Joey Hauser last March? Investigation needed.
Did that?
The Sissoko, like the last dunk. I don't jump out of my seat because I'm too old now. But it was impressive. It got me out.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game. Like that. The thing that I've liked about this team the first 2 games is I love basketball more than I love football, but I've really enjoyed watching the 2 games. Like both the games at the end.
But the overtimes were kind of ruined. We talked about it with the being in the bonus right away. I hate that.
Yeah, no doubt.
OTs should be just free-flowing games, I think.
And at that point, I'm so just completely screwed on the quick takes that I'm just yeah. I
knew somehow you're going to make it about you.
Sorry, yeah. I need this team to win decisively.
Right,
Friday
by
night,
20.
please. Yeah.
Cucker Tarlson next. What was the national perception of the tunnel fracas? Taking no Midwest opinions into account, did people care or notice?
Yeah, and I think it made MSU look the problem is nationally people just made MSU look like the out-of-control group that people don't see
Paul Feinbaum.
People don't see nationally the egging on. They don't see the prodding. They don't see the Michigan smugness. They don't see Harbaugh being all too quick to call for charges and things that weren't unhelpful. Now, Michigan State, and I've written this, there was no excuse for what the Michigan State players did, regardless of whatever prompted it. But I think certainly the perception nationally, I don't think people still care. It's not like people are obsessed now. It's not like you got I mean, nobody nationally gives a rat's ass what John U. Bacon is writing anywhere, or what that whole discussion or any of that shit. But
do you think Michigan fans care about John U?
Yeah, they do. Oh, yeah, he's their guy, and they think of him as like this credible journalist dude. And look, he's written a lot of books. But he is a. I'm not going on. Yeah,
break his elbow, man. Snap his leg, bro.
I don't know him well enough to.
Like they were saying that on the sideline.
They were. I mean, and look, there are a lot of things that are said on sidelines. Anyway, I don't want to get into this entirely because I'm
going to break your toe.
Step on it. The reporting of it was just so kind of ridiculous.
Hit him in the elbow.
Get a few elbows. Get a few emails from. I don't. It would not have met the. Yeah.
Do we get it?
Just don't get bent out of shape over somebody who's emotionally invested in one school reporting in something like this that negatively impacts the other when all their sources are of the same mind as well.
Both sides have those guys.
Absolutely.
Some dude next. In all the hubbub about the tunnel crap, I heard somewhere that the MSU visitors' locker room was trashed after the 2018 Michigan game. I have never heard this before. Was that malarkey or real? Any comments you are able to share?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was real. But that happens some places. Like, it's not good. But you hear that stuff all the time in rivalries or locker rooms getting trashed by opposing teams after emotional games is a much more commonplace than people realize. But I do believe that was the 2018 game.
Well, Devin Bush did it on the field. Why wouldn't they do it in the locker room?
Yeah, I do believe that's the year they did it at Spartan Stadium.
Yeah. Bo McJunkins. Why is the tunnel case going to be reviewed by a Michigan grad who has Go Blue in his Twitter bio? Glad this has taken so long that we likely won't see Winman play again.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's going to be the Ann Arbor, it's the Ann Arbor, it's the Washtenaw County prosecutor is a Michigan grad too, right? It's the real key though is that people, the problem with the stuff like the John U. Bacon stuff is it doesn't come across as level-headed. What you really need is a level-headed, explanation of findings, and I think people will be okay. Now, but that's the problem with a rivalry like this. This is the problem when you have that job, you probably shouldn't have Go Blue in your Twitter bio, because you might have to deal with something that involves a Michigan State person, and people. It's just the appearance. Even if most reasonable folks can be a fan of a school and do their job during the day, well, but if I had a job where I was going to be making judgments on people who were of a rival school, I would not have the other school in my bio. There's no doubt.
David Kalpoka. I loved how you and Solari photobombed Comparoni's post-game podcast show at Illinois and last weekend at Spartan Stadium against Rutgers. Keep the streak going this Saturday.
We didn't even realize it, but he showed the photos. Yeah, we're just us always walking the back. First of all, their post-game podcast show is like 30 minutes, so you're likely most of the world walks behind it.
You should pants Solari. Like step behind him real quick and just pants him on camera.
This week?
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't listen to the show, right?
I certainly not 2 hours in.
Alex James, can you think of something more underrated than a courtesy flush? I love Alex James. This should win a Hopcat gift card.
Okay.
Absolutely. I am the courtesy flush king. I don't know how you can't courtesy flush. Unless you're in a public bathroom where you have to get up and the thing automatically flushes for you. But if you have if you're able to reach, I know your arms are short, Graham, but if you're able to reach the handle back there, and why wouldn't you courtesy flush? Why do you sit there and stew in it, especially if you take a 45-minute shit?
Yeah.
It's just gross.
Yeah. Now, the courtesy flush is it's not even underrated.
And if you're married, please do it.
Yeah. Like anybody who's married who has ever shared a bathroom with their spouse and they want their spouse to look at them in a decent way for the rest of it, you have to.
And it's not significant other blows it out, and you're just like, oh boy.
It's not even underrated. It should be required. It's not even like to not do it is just uncouth.
It should be normal, yes. Hans Jurgen, if I wore skimpy outfits on TikTok and asked for donations through Cash Apps, would I be immoral?
There are probably other people doing it. I don't know how many donations you'd get, but
does Hans Jurgen just have like a chalkboard that he writes all these out first?
Yeah.
And
Most of them get cut.
pictures
Sometimes
of
they'll be
you
in.
on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But this, yeah.
Well, speaking of Hans Jurgen, what in the hell was Sissoko's offseason training program? Went from Hack to Hakeem Olajuwon. Yes, I'm showing my age.
You ain't the dream yet, but it was. I mean, it is one of the more impressive deals, and that's a really good story. Like at some point, talking with him, talking with the strength and conditioning coaches, with Doug Wojcik, just like what the daily regimen was, and for his improvement, I think it's a fascinating. And maybe it was just time, and he was ready, and maybe he was better last year and just didn't have a lot of opportunities. And I was talking to Pierre Brooks about this the other day. You get situations where you're only going to be in for 3 minutes, and you get in there and you're just wound up and you're like, holy shit, I got to make an impact, and you just fuck up. Whereas if you're going to play for 25, you're a little more at ease, you settle into the game, and so maybe he was further along. We saw a couple games last year where he showed some signs of development, so maybe he was further along than we realized.
Jake the Snake Hawkins next. While watching last Friday's game with my dad, he said it looks like A.J. Hoggard gained some bad weight that he lost before last season. Is that the case? Is that the reason he's looked a little slow and skippy on offense?
There's no question that he's they would like him, I think, to be in slightly better shape. But it's not like he put on a ton of weight. It's just not – he's not the guy who's in the best shape. And that's going to be something he's got to be careful about. And I don't know if that's the reason, though. I mean, I think he's and he's also a guy, though, who needs to be big enough to take advantage of his size. Like, part of the reason he's a force is because he's got some momentum behind him.
And finally, Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Who would suffer the worst of it? Graham if Jason hit him, or Jason if Gran hit him?
Well, I would be so emotionally offended that I would suffer if Jason ever hit me. I don't know how hard his punch would be, but I would. I got short arms, so it probably wouldn't go. I mean, he could probably hold my head, and I couldn't even get to him. That would be the problem for me. We appreciate all of you and all of your Twitter questions. Thank you, as always, for producing a good chunk of our show. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. Place your order today. Go to either location on Lake Lansing Road and East Lansing or in Williamson, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Thursday through Sunday. We appreciate Skymint. Skymint.com for location information and daily specials. Thanks to Firekeepers. Download the Firekeepers iCasinos and Sportsbook app today. Bet the games we're betting, including the World Cup. Lose some money with me. We appreciate Hopcat. We appreciate Front 43 and Cask & Company as well. We'll do another show sometime.